and speak. Mr. Martin, we'll get to you next. We have a comment in the room, and then we'll get to you afterwards. Please keep your hand raised. Thank you.
Just to clarify, this is our opportunity to talk about anything on the agenda for tonight.
This is a public hearing on the stop sign.
Oh, on the stop signs? Oh, great.
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic. So thank you, Mayor and Council members, for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Dan Barron. I'm a resident of Ward 1. I strongly urge the Town Council to authorize the use of automated stop sign enforcement cameras in our community. While these cameras are not a panacea for all our traffic safety issues, they are a vital, proven tool that will help make our community safer. The need for this enforcement is rooted in our community's own tragedy. As you may already know, the Maryland State Legislature approved this enforcement authority for municipalities in Prince George's County, largely in response to the fatal crash that killed 2 students outside of Riverdale Elementary School. This state law was passed because of something that happened right here in Riverdale Park. Since then, municipalities throughout the county have successfully piloted and implemented these cameras. It's time for Riverdale Park to follow their lead and adopt this critical safety measure. I recently had a thoughtful conversation with a neighbor who I respect a lot and who questioned the requirement to stop behind the stop line, arguing that drivers should be allowed to stop further forward to better see around a corner or even roll through an intersection if they perceive no risk. And while there are others, I responded with 3 reasons we require drivers to stop behind the line. The first is protecting pedestrian space. The space immediately past the stop line is designated for pedestrian safety. This area is the start of the crosswalk, whether marked or unmarked, where pedestrians have the right of way to cross the street safely. When drivers stop in that space or pass through it without stopping, they're at best at risk of impeding pedestrian access and at worst endangering people on foot. Second, we're attempting to create a safe system with the goal of where people inevitably make mistakes, those mistakes do not result in serious injury or death. Stopping behind the line is one safeguard to minimize the risk that drivers do not mistakenly strike a pedestrian. Third is visibility. Drivers' field of vision is compromised by speed and vehicle design. As a vehicle's speed decreases, a driver's peripheral vision expands, allowing them to see potential hazards, including pedestrians on the periphery. As speed increases, drivers' cone of vision narrows to what is in front of them, and they don't notice what is happening on the periphery, like adults and children about to step out into the street. Finally, modern vehicles, particularly larger vehicles that are being designed today and electric vehicles that are heavier, have thick pillars between the windshield and side windows. These pillars create blind spots. Stopping behind the line gives a driver a moment to scan the area and move slowly and deliberately to clear that blind spot before entering the crosswalk. And just taking a step further back, stopping behind the stop line has been a fundamental rule of the road for decades. When discussions turn to automated enforcement, I'm always a little surprised and concerned to hear community members argue that they're either unaware of the requirement or entitled to disregard this basic safety requirement entirely. However, those arguments are entirely consistent with one of the biggest criticisms I've heard in this community since I moved here a decade ago, which is that drivers routinely run through stop signs or do not safely yield for pedestrians attempting to cross the street. Finally, I want to briefly address the issue of privacy. As someone who tracked House Bill 516, which was referenced in tonight's materials, and followed State Senator Sarah Love's companion bill in the Senate, Senator Love was a former president and policy director of the Maryland ACLU and championed that legislation. I want to note that the state law now mandates that data collected by these cameras is only used for intended purposes, that is traffic enforcement. Information is only retained for periods necessary for enforcement and adjudication, and that there are penalties for misuse and unauthorized disclosure of that data. These strong and thoughtful safeguards give the town and our residents reasonable assurances that any images or data collected will not be used for unintended purposes. For the safety of our community, again, strongly encourage the town council to pass this measure and implement stop sign enforcement cameras. Thank you for your time, consideration, and your dedication to the safety of Riverdale Park.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, your hand is raised. You're next for public comment. Can you just provide your name and maybe the street you live on?
Yes, David Martin, Signet Lane in the Madison Hill community. I just needed clarification. Are we here to voice our support or non-support of this measure? I just wasn't clear on what the nature of the open floor was before I make my comment.
Sure. It is to voice any public comments you want on the stop sign, automated stop sign enforcement.
Oh, yes. I wholly endorse the enhanced stop sign enforcement due to the daily running of the stop signs in the Madison Hill community, particularly on my street of Signet Lane. In addition to running stop signs, they are speeding, but I believe the enhanced stop sign enforcement with any type of camera enforcement or additional enforcement will greatly reduce any violations of running a stop sign. So I fully endorse that.
Thank you. Again, for those joining, we have another 6 minutes or so for open comment on the stop sign automated enforcement. If you are online, please feel free to raise your hand and you can be recognized. And obviously in the room, we just ask you to sign in and then the floor is yours. Ms. Holland, your hand is raised. You're recognized.
Hi, thank you very much for the recognition. I do have a question, and excuse me if I am remiss in um, even recognizing that there are any posted speed limits in the Madison Hill community, which is where I live. I was reading in the bylaws, a policy resolution number 2011-2 says that the speed limit is 10 miles an hour or as posted. And quite frankly, I don't even know that there is any posted speed limitation in the neighborhood. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you. Another 3 minutes for public comment on stop sign enforcement. We've had some emails that I know were entered into the public record as well that we'll include if you wrote in ahead of time. But 3 more minutes for public comments on stop sign enforcement. All right, last minute for folks interested in public comment on the stop sign enforcement. We have one more minute since we started at 7:01, and then we will conclude our public hearing on ordinance 2025 OR 06 regarding stop sign monitoring systems. Last minute. Okay. So with that, we'll conclude our public hearing. Thank you all for those who shared your thoughts, whether written or verbal. Next, I'll call to order at 7:16 this legislative meeting. First order is the Pledge of Allegiance. I ask all those who are able to please rise for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing afterwards.
Flags that way, so.
Oh, there we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence or thoughtful prayer. Thank you. And thank you for the flag on demand. That's pretty good. Good job by you, whoever did that.
Not bad of that.
There you go. All right. So it is our legislative meeting. It's the first Monday of every month, which is our legislative meeting. We've got a full agenda today. So I first ask for the approval of the agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda from anyone on the council?
We're just asking about amendments.
Just amendments to the agenda.
I have none.
Okay. Hearing silence, hearing none. Any stated conflicts of interest for agenda items?
I have none.
No's and silence. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Councilmember Smith and seconded by Councilmember Foe. We'll go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos,
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne.
Aye.
I also vote aye. The agenda passes 7-0. All right. First up, we have the monthly finance report. Is there a staff presentation on the monthly finance report?
Director Smith.
Yes, thank you. I was having problems finding my unmute button. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. we're going to present the finance report for July through September of 2026, 25. Well, of FY 2026. The July revenue was $276,753. The expenses were $597,574 for a net of minus $320,821. For August, the FY 2026, the revenue was $961,798, and the expenses were $910,487 for a net of $51,311. For September, for FY 2026, we had revenue at $235,922, expenses at $682,047 for net minus $446,125. The year-to-date total is for FY 2026 is $1474473 for revenue, $2190108 for expenses, for a net of minus $715,635. Overall, as Mr. Jones would always say, that the bulk of our money comes in October and early November. So right now we are running a deficit, but we will see that correct itself in the coming months. Right now in revenue, we're at 13% of the budget, and in expenses, we are at 19% of the budget. And if anyone have any questions, I'm available.
Thank you, Director Smith. Any questions or comments on the budget from council? Any comments from the public? Okay, is there a motion to approve the monthly finance report?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Councilmember Foe, seconded by Councilmember Smith. We'll go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Foe?
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua?
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnot?
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos?
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne?
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion to adopt the monthly finance report, subject to audit, passes 7-0. All right, thank you. Our next agenda item is the correspondence summary. We received correspondence on September 29th from the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission Planning Board about the transmittal of the adopted West Hyattsville Queens Chapel Sector Plan and Endorsement Sectional Plan Amendment. This essentially was sort of informing, local municipalities that that MNPPC has adopted updates to one of the many sector plans that they have in the county. And so this was for the West Hyattsville Queens Chapel sector plan. There is a Beacon Hills sector plan, which kind of covers the Kenilworth Avenue area and further west. And so there's a bunch of different sector plans. So we received that correspondence on the 29th. Okay. You have a comment on that, sir?
The Riverdale Park Business Association sent a letter September 29th to the mayor and council. Is that not part of the correspondence summary for the town?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Town Manager, go ahead.
With a CC to the city manager.
I believe that went directly to you all. And what we put on the correspondence summary are things that come to the town that are addressed to the mayor and council that you haven't seen.
We are aware of your letter.
I understand. I just want to make it as a matter of public record that there was a piece of correspondence that was mailed to the town, all of its elected officials and its town manager from the Riverdale Park Business Association. I know that you've all seen it, but I just want the record to reflect that there is a correspondence summary and there was a piece of correspondence that was received by the town. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Councilman.
if possible, I'm not sure the exact rule mechanism of this, but could we, whatever it is, ensure that that's included in the materials for the meeting that this evening, once they're posted online with the minutes and whatnot?
For this meeting, yes, we can. I know one of the things we have later on will be our rules of procedure. And so what are our rules in terms of public correspondence is something that we can definitely consider that as well. So that we have that as so the lines are clear for folks to know.
Sure. And I know just by virtue of it being sent to us, it is in public record. All of our emails are, subject to Public Records Act. That being said, I think it is beneficial to include it in the record of this meeting. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, that is our correspondence section. Next, we have public comments. And so this is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on anything that they choose to comment on. I only ask that we try to be obviously respectful and then, keep the comments to, 2 to 3 minutes or so that we can make sure we get everyone's comments in. If you are in person, please come in. There's a sign-in sheet that you can sign in, and there's a microphone that will make sure you can turn on so that you're heard. If you're online, please raise your hand and you'll be recognized. Any public comments? Ms. Holland, your hand's raised.
Yes, thank you. Just a follow-up relative to your last meeting and wondering about, if anything, what may be done about the paving of the streets in the Madison Hill community, along with any speed humps to slow down the traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to clarify as well, we won't be responding to every comment, but we're definitely taking notes. Staff is taking notes as well. And so we will we'll follow up shortly. Any other public comments? Mr. Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to publicly thank Jessica Barnes for helping me with some action in terms of identifying illegal rental properties. I've been banging the drum on that issue for a long time, and Ms. Barnes has been very helpful to the extent that she can be. And I actually got a call back from a staff member of the city and was given a report on actions that are actively being taken. So I just want to publicly thank Ms. Barnes.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay. Well, seeing no other raised hands or comments, we will move on to the presentation, which is a proclamation recognition of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We'll wait for it to pull up on online so they can follow along as well. And then I will read this proclamation. There we go. All right. Whereas domestic violence is epidemic affecting individuals in every community, regardless of age, economic status, sexual orientation, gender, race, religion, or nationality. And whereas domestic violence remains a major public health, social justice, and human rights issue requiring particular attention. And whereas there is an urgent need more than ever for communities to get involved by increasing awareness of domestic violence, supporting organizations that support victims of domestic violence, and promoting efforts to eliminate domestic violence in our community. And whereas the wide prevalence of domestic violence compels all of us to come together and get involved in a coordinated community effort to end abusive violence in our relationships, in our families, and in our communities. And whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month provides an excellent opportunity for residents to learn more about preventing domestic violence and to show support for the numerous organizations and individuals who provide critical awareness, advocacy services, and assistance to victims. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Mayor and Council of the Town of Riverdale Park, Maryland, that the month of October is recognized as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Residents of Riverdale Park are urged to work together to spread awareness of domestic violence and to wear purple or illuminate their homes with purple light as a visible sign that our community supports those who are impacted by domestic violence. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the Town of Riverdale Park, Maryland, to be affixed this 6th day of October 2026. Ifiakinen Mayor. Thank you for that. Okay, next on our agenda, we have the consent agenda, which contains minutes from the September 8th and legislative meeting, the August 25th special legislative meeting, the August 25th work session, and the June 2nd legislative meeting. Hopefully, Council, you're able to review those notes. And with that, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Flo, seconded by Councilmember Cologne. We'll go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Flo.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos.
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne.
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion passes 7-0. All right. Next, we have our legislative actions for this meeting. We've got 4 before we go into unfinished business and new business. So on our legislative actions, the first will be around a motion to adopt resolution 2025 R15 regarding Robert's Rules of Order, the newly revised 12th edition. Will there be a presentation by staff on this motion?
The memorandum that we put out at the last meeting just covered kind of the history. And historically, the council has adopted Robert's Rules of Order. We put it in a resolution this time. If you look back historically, it was done by a simple motion. And we recommend that just to make clear that if there's a conflict between the charter or the town code or any other rules the council acts upon to adopt as your rules of order, that those things would take precedent and be superior to Roberts. But in the interim, we believe and recommend to the council to adopt Roberts. And that's the newly revised 12th edition.
Thank you.
And we will work to get everyone both an online version and a paperback as well.
Thank you. So is there a motion to adopt, and then we can discuss after the motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for the adoption of Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised 12th edition, in so much that it does not conflict with town charter, code, or other rules adopted by the council.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Lingua, seconded by Councilmember Foe. Any discussion on this motion?
I'd like to thank staff for coordinating that and getting us the new additions.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? From the public?
Yes. Hi, Heather from Ward 1. Actually, I have a quick question whether Robert's Rules covers length of time given to public comment by individual residents, or whether that's something that the council might tackle separately.
It is something that the council will tackle in terms of public comments. I think even the suggestion was having public comments happen at the exact time, same time every meeting. So people can kind of know, like say 7:30 every meeting, it's public comments as an example. Robert's Rules is very lengthy. And so I don't know if I don't think it covers that explicitly, but it's something that I think we're definitely thinking about in terms of like rules moving forward.
I just encourage the council to think about the ways in which residents can fully participate in town meetings. I've been to a lot of town meetings and have seen, observed the ways that public comment breaks down based on gender, based on nationality, based on language, and would encourage just thinking about ways to make sure that folks have equitable access to public comment. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Smith.
this randomly is a thing I looked up this week. The standard length for a speaker of time allotted for a speaker on a debatable motion under Roberts is 10 minutes. However, as we talked about for adopting our own rules of procedure to augment Roberts, there is flexibility on that, but under Roberts, that is the standard length of time per speaker. Piece of trivia for you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments on the motion? If not, we can go to a vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos.
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. The motion passes 7-0. All right. Thank you. Next up, we have the a motion or to adopt the concept recommendation for the Town Center Trail and Parking Lot Redesign Project and authorize staff to proceed with the procurement of design services. As that gets pulled up. I will say that we have actually broken this up into two different motions since the beginning. This was technically two separate projects. So there is the Town Center Trail and Parking Lot Redesign Project, and then there is the Natoli Place Lafayette Avenue Redesign Project, both authorizing staff to proceed with procurement of design services. And so though we may talk about them at the same time, we will be voting on them separately. I'll just say a couple things. I know we've been talking about the need for both of these projects for what I was told at least 2 decades. There was a recognition that the Natoli Place and Lafayette Avenues were a dangerous intersection where there's very little signage in terms of who has the right of way. And as a person who walks or even dares to bike that area, it's clear that we've been fortunate that there hasn't been a bigger issue in that intersection, but that's still more of the reason why it's important that we actually do something about it. And so in the same way in the Town Center Trail and Parking Lot Redesign, I believe it's the only stretch of the trolley trail that isn't continuous with all the other ones. It sort of dumps into a parking lot that is in sort of bad shape in terms of the actual lot itself, which obviously knowing that does further development on that is needed. And so I can understand why a lot of work hasn't been prioritized in that area. It is literally the heart of our community and something that I think everybody feels strongly about. It's the importance of making it reflect the many uses and needs that it serves within our community. And so we've had community meetings, I think starting in January or so. This has been almost a 9-month process. There's been meetings with the business community. We were, I think, ready to vote on this in June, and was urged by this council to actually delay so that Trolley Trail can happen and people can make comments at Trolley Trail Day, which the town's event was in that location. So we got a lot of people who commented there. We've met in the elementary school and gotten comments. We've met, this has been on the agenda for every mayor and council meeting, at least since the end of August, and a couple times before that. The Walk Bike Drive Advisory Committee has also talked about this. There's been extended comment periods on this. A lot of emails that have been sent, correspondence that have been sent as well on this topic. It's clear that a lot of folks have weighed in on this, and I appreciate everyone's dedication to making this, to weighing in on something that's so important, and obviously is in the center and heart of our town. So with that, we'll talk about these individually. We will allow for council comments on it, as well as a few public comments on it, as is our tradition, and then we'll go to a vote and then go to the next one. So we'll start with the Natoli Place Lafayette Avenue redesign project. How about we have a motion and then we can discuss the motion? Is there a motion to approve the concept recommendation for Natoli Place Lafayette Avenue redesign project and authorize town staff to proceed with procurement of design services?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Smith.
I'd like to make a motion to approve concept recommendations for Town Center Trail and Parking Lot Redesign Project and authorize staff to proceed with procurement of design services.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Foe. You want to, just to be clear, you want to do the first one first? I did this. I read out the second one first.
I withdraw my previous motion, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like to make a motion to approve concept recommendation for Natoli Place Lafayette Avenue redesign project and authorize staff to proceed with procurement of design services.
Seconded.
Thank you for the clarification. So,
sorry, I read the first one on the list.
no problem. Motion by Councilmember Smith and seconded by Councilmember Foe. Is there any discussion from the council on the motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Smith.
Happy to make this motion, happy to finally get started or move to the next step on this project. Again, as always, thank you to staff for the exhaustive process that we've gone through here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for noting all of the various steps that we've taken input there. We've gotten a lot of great input from the community throughout this process, from, just individuals that live here, people that live and work here, people that own businesses here. We've considered them all. Where they made improvements or where they were workable, we have integrated those or discussed them and found similar alternatives. Not everything's workable, though. Not all of our preferences as a council are integrated here, but I think what we have is a really great plan, and we could continue to delay for more months, as we've already delayed for several months, take more input. I don't know that it would result in anything more than what we have already taken in and considered. And at a certain point, we got to put shovels in dirt. I was telling my colleague from the second ward earlier this evening, I read over the summer a biography of Lorne Michaels, producer of Saturday Night Live fame, who talked about when they get ready to go live every Saturday. And he said, we don't go live because we're ready. We go live because it's 11:30. And I feel like it's 11:30 on this project. There are a lot more decisions to be made around the design, a lot more ways we can improve it, and that is all available to us as we continue to move forward. So happy to support the next steps on this 10% design and get some shovels in the dirt on this project. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember?
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I understand this has been a long time coming. I'm very well aware that this has been a long time coming. It's closer. There we go. That said, being that we're looking at this is, we want to call it 20 years or 2 decades or whatever, that's 240 months. If we're going an additional 4 or 6 weeks to make sure that we've covered everything that what was offered to the business community and the folks over there in terms of meetings with staff, have been fully carried out. This is something I'd like to hear from folks we have here in the audience tonight, Mr. Arnold, Mr. Herman, and Mr. York. They feel that they've had the earnest and frank discussions with town staff and the planners that were offered to them. I know that Dr. Thompson has also weighed on this. He's said that he's fairly satisfied with the design for the Natoli Place portion of this project. Still in all, I would like to hear the comments from the gentleman here, being who they represent as part of the business association.
Yes, we will get to public comments after council has been able to discuss. Thank you,
Yeah.
Councilmember. Any other council comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Philip Colon.
since the starting of this town center rehabilitation, I said I'm not interested because it's very difficult for the community people. One, Rhode Island is going to be blocked. Then there's some residents, they are not around that area. They're coming with their children from other side to Riverdale Elementary School, and they have to go to work. When they come, the route they used to return with is blocked. So they have to go round again to find a space to go back. And moreover, if you look at the town center, residents are there, their houses, their parking lot is there. So I don't know what interest these people have in this town center, rehabilitation of this town center. So as soon as when this work starts, the difficulty will start to come. And the residents in that area, they will start grumbling. So as for me, I'm not interested. If you guys gonna approve it, approve it. But my hand is not there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other councilmember comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Phil.
being part of these dialogues for 10 years, we constantly have dialogued about the move it closer. Thank you. Usually not told I have to move closer to microphones first. Since I've been on council, we've dialogued about the Lafayette Natoli split for an extended period of time. We've talked about traffic flowing one way potentially, and then ultimately you engage meet and hunt in this dialogue, and the vision of a traffic circle comes. The vision of talking about closing Lafayette and creating a green space. Our data is telling us that is the most dangerous intersection. And if you are ever sitting at the vantage point of Town Center Market, you recognize the difficulties that are approached there and at Rhode Island. This is a design that implements changes in both of those locations that will make pedestrians safer in doing this. Plus, it gives us a continued opportunity to dialogue about ultimately what this space can be in terms of how can we celebrate it with Town Center Market, with Manifest Bread, utilizing the businesses on site to help create a space, one, that is safer for our pedestrians, two, that is safer for drivers entering into this community and displacing traffic in an orderly fashion. I think the removal of Lafayette alone makes this project very amenable to what it is we're trying to accomplish as a town that meets in line with our walk, bike, and drive initiatives as a town. So I look at this as a dramatic improvement than the cluster that currently sits there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other comments on the Natoli Place Lafayette Avenue redesign project from council? Okay. Any public comments on this?
My name is Jeffrey York.
Well, first, before you do, Jeff, you got to turn the microphone on.
Like a button in front. There you go. Get a green. You'll get a green light.
Don't we all?
Thanks, Mike. I'm the guy who paid $28,000 in tax last week for that property, by the way, just in case. I'm not the guy who actually paid. I paid it. My tenants paid it because they live there, comes out of their rent. We've got a couple of single women with kids that have to park somewhere in front of those buildings at night when they get home from work. And they have to safely get their little kids out of the car and cross it. And none of what the drawings now that you have addressed that. And if you can't, if you want to, you can, but you can't paint me as somebody who's against this. I've had tenants almost run over for the last 10 years there. I'm all for fixing this. I asked the previous mayor repeatedly and Mr. Lingua a number of times. So I'm happy about this. But it's a little bit like Christopher Columbus goes traveling to India and he ends up in America. Good trip, wrong place. You've got a good idea, but you aren't there yet. And the idea of this rush to get this done and not finish the safety part of it. I know you guys think it's safe, but you've been missing in action with your people in the Natoli place. They haven't heard word one from you. The mayor has come and talked to them, but you should hear firsthand what my residents say. And it's important to hear from the people most affected, the people with babies, since this is all about, that's how it got started. So I encourage you to delay a little bit, get somebody to draw this thing the right way. Don't take away their parking. Don't make them park across the street in Mabel Munch Park. Don't say we'll give you 2 more spaces in front of the War Memorial. You've got, and the last thing you've done is you can't get a trash truck back there. You know, it won't be able to fit. It doesn't fit now, barely fits, won't be able to get out. The drawings are exceptionally bad. And you're pushing this thing through. I get it. We all want to see safety first. But what we have here is safety last. Thanks. And my taxes are too damn high.
Thank you for your comment.
Mr. Mayor, it's a
Yeah.
point of order. If we could remind folks that under the rules we just adopted, all comments should be addressed to the chair.
That is true. Thank you. I am the chair for those who are unaware. It may sound odd to address comments to the mayor or to the chair, but that is part of Robert's Rules of Order. Any other comments from council or the public on the Natoli Place Lafayette Avenue redesign project? We have one in the room.
Good evening again. Michael Herman, President of the Riverdale Park Business Association, and also a resident of the community living very close to the area. In fact, I walk on Natoli Place probably just about every day. Let me first say that most of the comments that I want to make are going to be directed to the next motion, not this motion, but I want to say that the Riverdale Park Business Association did meet and to discuss both designs for both the east side and the west side of the train tracks. It is absolutely the truth that and in the letter that I've sent of September 29th, which lays out the history and sequence, also addresses the Natoli Place Lafayette interchange, if you will. I think the main concern from the business community, or the 2 primarily affected businesses over there, which were the residential housing, the multifamily housing over there, as well as Town Center Market. The TCM issue has been largely addressed as it relates to the 4-way stop that is going to come out at the terminus when Lafayette is closed and the traffic continues down Natoli. So I think that that issue is largely resolved. I think the big issue, and it came out about at the meeting that you had on Natoli Place, Mr. Mayor, and we did appreciate you coming out to meet with the residents of that community, of those multifamilies there. Their big concern was coming back at night, safety issues, and being able to have a place to park, as many as us have had the pleasure of being able to park in front of our residences or close to it. There is some concern, of course, that when you bisect those roads, now when you take two roads and now it's only one, everything's going to flow down, obviously through Natoli. So that means that there'll be probably more traffic coming down Natoli, where it splits off from Lafayette. I think the big concern raised by Mr. York, as well as an adjacent property owner there, as well as the residents who live there, was just to make sure that they said in the redesigned plan, there will be an opportunity for more parking. But as I also understand that part of the carving out of Mabel Munch is something that's not already agreed to. I think it has to do with some conditions and some approvals from people who are not in the room, as I understand. I might be wrong about that. But I also understand that it's not necessarily a done deal. So the concern that the Business Association has is that although it is well-intentioned to do this, when you decide to do a 10% design, which is what the objective is tonight through the motions, a 10% design is not really a 10% design in the way some people think of it. 10% design generally means it's about 10% of the cost has been absorbed up to this point. But when you do a 10% adoption, what you're basically saying is, this is the plan we're going with. We'll tweak it, but basically this is what we're doing. Now, if there can be absolute assurances that there is going to be the minimization of the loss of parking, I think there'll be less objection. I think Mr. York also spoke to the issue about being able to get a trash truck in, which is not an unreasonable consideration given the number of units that are being served right there on Natoli. And these are people, as you've already heard, are also paying taxes to the town through their rents. So I think the concern is that there's not the assurance that it can absolutely happen. Now, if there was further along in the discussions where they knew that they had the access to the easement for the Mabel Munch, for that park portion where they said they were going to put additional parking on the west side of Natoli, perhaps some of the concerns would be mitigated. Concerns about having to go across the street and losing the parking on Natoli is somewhat problematic for people, because now you're saying you're going to have to cross the street to get to that spot. But I will say that I want to be sure that you understand that the Business Association, we are not the people who say no. We are actually the people who often say yes, because we're the ones who are trying to move the agenda forward for the success of businesses and for the community. So we think that addressing the Natoli Lafayette problem is actually a very good start. We do think that that's a good, I don't think that there's been major objection to the closure of Lafayette at its current terminus. But I think the big issue is to make sure that the parking stuff is addressed before we go forward with the 10% design, say, yes, we're going to go forward. And then we decide afterwards, we're going to actually have to lose those 6 spaces. We're not really sure how we're going to make them up, but we'll find somewhere for you to walk to about 100 yards away or 100 feet away. And that, for younger women, you heard from one mother at one of those meetings saying she was very concerned when she comes home at night with a young child, that if she has to come home late at night and has to walk all the way across from where her car would be parked, that would be problematic. But I do want you to understand that we do think that the four-way interchange, four-way stop at the terminus of Natoli at Queensbury, I think the vast majority of the businesses agreed that that was an improvement. Town Center Market said that that would be helpful for the flow in and out of the parking lot, which is an improvement, as we know, because that's a busy parking lot. So in any event, but I will reserve the majority of my comments for the next motion. I'm not sitting here to tell you we're opposed to this motion. We just have some concerns.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mr. Arnold, did you want to speak on this?
No.
Okay.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Heather Cronk, Ward 1. I want to highly encourage the council to move forward with this redesign. I've lived in this community for 16 years. We've been having this conversation for 16 years. Delaying 4 to 6 weeks is not going to make it substantially different. I think that by the time that if we can move this forward, by the time we actually have a real conversation with CSX, with JADA, trash and recycling, but by the time we have those conversations, this will change significantly. And so I really want to encourage folks to move it forward so that we can even have those conversations. I'm particularly, I am compelled by the comments from residents at Natoli Place in making sure that folks are safe in walking across that street. And I think that moving this plan forward, moving this redesign forward, the kind of theoretical as it is, would let us actually have conversations about what that might look like, what a safe passage across that street might look like. You could imagine motion censored pedestrian crosswalks or button censored pedestrian crosswalks. So the folks have some control over the ways in which they're crossing that street safely with kids, with groceries, with all the things that we come and go with. So I'd encourage the council to vote yes, move this forward, be able to actually have those kinds of granular conversations so that we can hear from residents who live right in that area what might be helpful. But for those of us who live nearby, not right in the area, but a couple blocks away, we're dying for this to move forward. I've been almost hit in that area on my bike, on foot, and am desperate for something to change. So I'd encourage folks to take the power that you have been given to move on behalf of residents and let us move the conversation forward. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other public comments on this? I have a couple thoughts. One, I'll just say that I know it was helpful to talk to the residents at Natoli Place. I believe that was in August, and hear some of the concerns that they had around parking. I think they were the latest design called for cutaways for parking along Natoli, as well as we also discussed the easy possibility of making that permit parking. And so to ensure that residents who are on the Natoli, basically on that block, or have like priority parking there, to further limit anyone who may be sort of coming in town and parking or parking for any other establishment. Again, to try to make sure that folks have access to parking. I think the final design had it at a -1 parking spot in terms of what's currently there, legal parking. I know even at the meeting, we did witness a lot of, people were parking up and through the sidewalk. And so if anything, there's an opportunity to sort of make that intersection, that area safer for people to park and walk. But I agree in terms of the notion of moving this forward to continue to have this conversation. By all means, this is not going to be the last time we ever talk about this. Okay. With that, I think we've heard comments from both the council and the public. I think we'll move to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Nay.
Councilmember Worsnop. Councilmember Ramos.
Aye.
Councilmember Colon.
Nay.
And I also vote aye. The motion passes 5-2. Okay. Next, we have the other project, which is the west part, the Town Center Trail and Town Center Trail and Parking Lot Redesign Project, and authorize staff to proceed with procurement of design services. Is there a motion? And then we'll discuss.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Smith.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the concept recommendation for Town Center Trail and Parking Lot Redesign Project and authorize staff to proceed with procurement of design services. Have I got the right one?
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Smith and seconded by Councilmember Foe. Any council comments on the motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Smith.
similar to the last motion, thank you to everybody for all the work that's been put into this, all of the input we've taken and incorporated into the project. to get it to where these 10% designs are. I think it's going to be great for safety. It's going to be great for business. It's going to be great for our town. And as always, thanks for staff for all the work that folks put in on this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other comments from council? Councilmember Worsnop.
Thank you. I would also like to thank staff for all of their work on this. And as a relative newcomer to the council, I have not been involved in this as long as some of you, and as certainly not as long as most of you in the room from the community. But I do want to just thank everybody for all of their input, which I think was very thoughtful. And I also appreciated how council and staff worked to incorporate input over time. I will also recognize that any big project is disruptive, and that is true. And we need to, do what we can to minimize those disruptions for people living in the area and also going through the area. I think we all recognize that, and I've appreciated how balanced the discussion has been. I'll leave my comments there, but there are a lot of details I think to work out, and we are all aware of that. There will be many conversations going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other comments from the council? Okay. Councilmember Leawood.
No, I was just going to say, reiterate the comments I made previously regarding, I'd like to be able to hear from Riverdale Park Business Association. I know Mr. Herman said he wanted to make more comments on this.
Okay. With no comments from the council, we'll open up the public. Any public comments on the motion for the Town Center Trail and Parking Lot Redesign Project?
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Michael Herman on behalf of the Riverdale Park Business Association. I made a note earlier tonight about the letter that I sent on September 29th that was sent on behalf of the Riverdale Park Business Association. I would hope that that becomes a matter of the public record because there is also designs or alternative designs that are in that letter, and I think it's worthy of consideration tonight. Let me start my comments by saying, let me reiterate what I said in the last comment. A 10% design is not what you think it is. A 10% design means you're basically committing to the concept and tweaking it at the edges. As it relates to the west side of the train track, we are saying there is a need for a considerable pause because we don't believe that the best information has been available to everybody, and there is probably an alternative design not dissimilar from one of the designs that was in the early phases of this, that it will be explained perhaps a little more in detail by Mr. Arnold when he speaks. But I want to be clear about why we're asking for a pause in the action. We believe that there is a safer path and that it's also better for business and better for many things. What I thought was really interesting is that the person who was here at the work session last week from the design group, or what we're calling them, the consultants at this point, I'm not really sure how we're classifying them at this point, under a contract. They said, oh, well, we talked about doing the four-way stop or the intersection at Rhode Island Avenue crossing Queensbury, as opposed to the current terminus where Maryland Avenue comes out and kicks out onto Queensbury Road. And I heard a very interesting comment from him. He said, well, that would be okay, except for the fact that people could get caught in the train. And I sat there and I said, wow, that's fascinating, because if you decided to make that a three-way stop, I'm not suggesting, I'm not a traffic engineer, that ameliorates that problem altogether. And that means that would never be a problem. And it also means that traffic would be able to have a much more free flow on Queensbury Road going westbound after the train tracks. But I'm not Again, I'm not here as a traffic engineer. That's not my job. What I come here to say is that there was some very serious concern about the engagement with the business community. There's not really a need for a fight here. It's not about fighting, it's about resolving and doing what is in the best interest of the collective community. The business concerns that we have, and we had meetings, the town and a couple people, or some of the staff met with as many as I think 3 businesses. We've met with more than 10, and we requested, since really for the last couple months, we've been requesting a meeting with the Riverdale Park Business Association and the affected businesses and the people involved in the town design or in the design of this. That meeting has never happened. The meeting has been have individual people to meet with, and that I'm not sure what the alternative strategy was, but that's okay. I'm not going to tell the town how to do its business. But I don't know why we were afraid of that meeting, because maybe there was concern that the collective interests of these various property owners and business owners along the affected path might have a voice that was maybe a little bit more consensus building and a little bit more in conflict maybe with what is currently being proposed. Let me explain that there's an alternative design, and this is part of the historic route of the trolley trail, as you know, where the tracks are. Rhode Island Avenue used to bisect, used to cut across Queensbury Road. There's pictures, I can show them to you. They're from the 1920s, 1930s. They've been going back for a long time. At some point, we cut that off, and then we created the entrance into the parking lot that it goes where Maryland Avenue is extended. The reality is that we were trying to say that one of the reasons the original design actually makes more sense is that would put parallel parking immediately adjacent to the businesses where the businesses are located that are fronting the parking lot. Easier access also to the businesses around the corner, like the Bikram Yoga Studio, all the other businesses there. You also have the opportunity to create a straighter path for the bike path. And I know this is of interest to bikers, and it should be of interest to all of us as a matter of public safety. I don't know how many of you have ever ridden on the Mount Vernon bike path, but if you are, there's a couple of places where it goes into some parking lots and there's some weird turns. I don't know how often have you seen the people that follow those turns? They don't. They park, they go wherever they go, and people on that bike path are sometimes flying. I will tell you right now, you are creating a potentially dangerous situation about how you're trying to jog the bike path. The proposal, the alternative proposal that was put forth, is to actually have the bike path almost continue in a straight line, a little bit of a jog, but not a big turn like it's currently proposed. And what would happen is you would have parking, parallel parking along Rhode Island Avenue for serving the businesses there. You'd have Rhode Island Avenue there. You'd have the bike path that is crossing from its current terminus right there at Queensbury Road, and then connecting more gradually to the bike path where it extends past the parking lot. That makes more sense. What your current proposal is that on, we'll call farmers market days, you're actually going to have the farmers market on both sides of the bike path. I don't know if you've ever seen, I'm sure that many of you have been to the town center, to the market when we have our farmers market. It's a wonderful farmers market. People are walking around, they're meandering. Can you imagine someone biking through 10 miles an hour and suddenly you're smashing into pedestrians? It can happen. I'm not saying there's anything that you can do to make it foolproof, but what I am saying that having the path straighter makes the alignment better. And for purposes of the farmers market, the proposal that we've puts all of the farmers market and what we call the piazza, for lack of a better term. It would be a separated or segregated brick paving area. If many of you if you either seen pictures of Europe or have been to Europe, you'll know that in many of the plazas or piazzas that they have in central parts of towns, they are used alternatively sometimes for parking, they're used sometimes for events, they're used sometimes for dining, They have all sorts of uses, but what they do is they have a cordoned off area that is part of their piazza or their plaza. We propose the same thing because what you're doing by creating a pedestrian-only place that's further, let's say, closer to where the current restaurant is, what you're doing is you're eliminating all that for parking. What you're basically saying is we're going to have the farmer's market there, but we'll also have it elsewhere because it can't fit all on that pedestrian area that you're creating, this pedestrian, I don't know what you're calling it, a raised area, brick area adjacent to where there's currently sidewalk. The reality is that design doesn't make a lot of sense. It might look attractive, but it's a functional nightmare. And here's the problem when you go to 10% design. If you design it, you will build it pretty close to what you're designing. And if you make the mistake and you've now invested $200,000, $300,000 on your redesign, and you come back 3 months later, 4 months later, saying, my God, what did we do? That wasn't the smartest thing in the world. Because people want things doesn't always make it the right thing. We sometimes have to use the stewardship of the smartness. You were all elected for a reason. You're the brain trust here. So we're saying to you, exercise the brain trust and do what might be the right thing in the better design. What I'm also trying to say to you is this is also has less impact on parking. It will also create, the businesses are excited about promoting this because what we can also do is in this process, as we create the parallel parking, reestablish Rhode Island Avenue as it was, you can have a widening of that sidewalk there. You can have the outdoor dining, all of the experience that you want to have that we will do to create a true town center feel. But you could also say that on market days and special days, we can push this into one little place. But when it's not a market day, we have good amount of parking. Because what you're not doing is whacking out parking here. Let me also talk about building for the future. And this is an important concept too. Often when we design things, we design them that they are, I don't want to say obsolete, but they're often designed for obsolescence because we're not thinking about where we're going. We're thinking about where we are or where we've come from. I'm asking you to think bigger because there is a real possibility that there is going to be larger development in the town center. You know that there has been a plan for approval of one building, more than one, that are potentially going to move. We don't know when it's going to happen, but don't build for obsolescence. Don't build so that you have to do another $250,000 improvement something down the road. What we're saying is design it for the way it's going to be. Make sure that there is adequate parking. You can talk about parking counts on what day of the week that you go, but the reality is more people are coming to the town center than have ever come since the town center has been redeveloped. That's a great story. Keep telling that story, but tell the customers who are coming here, both from Riverdale Park, from Hyattsville, from adjacent areas, people come to 250 Barbecue and park 2 blocks away because they want to be there. They want that food. But you know what? If you start making it harder and harder for people to access it, if you make it harder to get into the stores that are adjacent to the parking, you're just going to start killing the golden goose. We were waiting for the ghost town center to turn into the town center, and we have a couple of wonderful anchor tenants who have invested significantly to make this happen. We should reward them, reward Manifest Bakery for what they are doing. Allow that parallel parking directly in front of their building. Allow for that widening of that walkway so that they can have the things that they need to have outdoor dining. We can make all this happen. But if you go with the design that's currently proposed, it was not with consultation with the business community if this was the best design. Now, I'm not suggesting that the business community has a trump card here. I am not suggesting that in the slightest. Some of the businesses don't even vote in the town of Riverdale Park. Many of us do. But the main point is that they have invested and they've voted with their feet. They voted with their money. They voted with the confidence that the town would do the right things to protect their investments and to protect the people who patronize them. And what we're asking you is to think bigger and think out of the box to realize that may not be the design that best protects the businesses and the commercial business. Because if we turn it back to a ghost town center at any point in time because the residents stop coming or the people from outside town keep coming because it's not convenient anymore, you will then have failing businesses, you will have empty storefronts, and you'll ask yourself, why did we create this? And we'll say, we didn't do it, but maybe we did. All we're asking you is to, at this point, take a hiatus. There's no reason to rush this to judgment. This one can wait a couple months. I would really love to hear the design people to explain why that design doesn't make any sense. And when the response was, oh, well, people could get backed up onto the track, it struck me as saying, so it's better to have a curve, an S-curve in the bike path, dangerous. It's better to have all these other things, and these are dangerous conditions, but the threat is because of a backup on the track, which if you turn that into a three-way stop, would never happen. I'm just saying there's other ways to look at this, and we believe that sometimes some of the look at it was a little bit short-sighted, and we don't want to say what was being promoted or why it was being promoted, but sometimes stewardship over resources and stewardship over grants and stewardship over the rights of way and stewardship over our roads should be exercised by the people who we elected to put you there because we had confidence that you would do the best thing because you can think about it more readily than we think about it every day. I understand that there are other comments. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I would ask that my letter of September 29th be made a part of the record. And I would like that design plan, that the alternative design to be made available so that people can understand what we're digesting. And we committed a lot of time to this because the businesses met. And I assure you, more businesses weighed in on this than weighed into any of the conversations that any of your folks have had with any of the affected business community.
Thank you. That went over 10 minutes, but we'll try to keep our comments to be a little more, from a time perspective, a little shorter than that. But I didn't want to cut you off because I know you spent a long time here. So I appreciate you understanding me, letting you get the extra, 5 minutes or so to get that comment in. Are there other comments from the public or Mr. Arnold?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike Arnold. I'm a partner in the River Post LLP, which is the owner of 6220 Rhode Island Avenue, the old historic post office in Riverdale Town Square. If I may, I'd like to distribute these to the members who were not here last week. Sure, I will. And as far as Lafayette, send you just okay. Again, Mike Arnold. I'm also a member of the, or have been a member of the MUTC Mix Center Design Center Review Committee, as well as I'm a preservation architect, design professional, working primarily in Prince George's County over the last 40 years, as well as sitting on the Historic Preservation Board, Prince George's Heritage, which is an advocacy board. I just wanted to not read through those points, but I think they're pretty clear. What we're advocating for and what Mr. Herman was I felt spot on about was we are asking for a reconsideration of the choice because we think it's the wrong choice. We think that I think personally that the one closer to what we should arrive at and what we're describing here and what's described in these pages is Scheme 3. And you can see that on the second page. There's kind of a comparison between the conceptual diagram that I've been presenting to the design team since January 4th, I believe it was, when the first meeting occurred, public meeting occurred on this. I missed a few in between, the one with the green dots in particular, but my concern is manifold. And the main thing is from a business standpoint, that is the businesses that are in my building, I'm a landlord, and the quality of those businesses has a high degree of variability because of the current situations. The status quo, which I believe is what the current scheme supports, that is alternate 2, the one that's being proposed for you today, that is being recommended by the engineers, maintains no parking 20% of the year, no parking in front of business, no direct business access 20% of the year. And those two things from a business standpoint are really problematic. That means that there is no public, there is no delivery access. In other words, if you want to have FedEx drop something off, they will not stop on market day. So this is problematic for those that are dependent upon those kinds of services on a regular basis. There are improvements suggested in alternate 2, which also will apply in alternate 3. I'm not saying that there aren't many attributes of alternate 2 that are good, and they actually are transmutable. My concern is that between April 2, I believe it was, or somewhere in early April, when the 4 recommendations were made, between then and the August 4th proposal, I believe it was August 4th is when it was presented, there was 0 design development of any of the 4 schemes. They simply picked the one I think that they thought fit the bill best. I don't believe that they reflected many of my comments, and I provided comments no less than 6 times during this entire process. So I think had they taken the schemes I provided into consideration, that they might have looked at alternate 3 and preferred that one. Again, my concern is business access. The other concern I have is a historic one, and that's, again, this is the historic core of Riverdale Park. It is a National Register Historic District. And in fact, the urban form is a piece of that. So the fact that the railroad and the trolley lines have this unusual arrangement that cut through the square is something to be celebrated, not something to be forgotten. The engineer's proposal did not ever mention the historic nature of our town square, ever, nowhere, okay? It did not mention that we have a MUTC committee that reviews these kinds of things because we're familiar with the MUTC guidelines. The MUTC guidelines talk a great deal about urban design, about how streets should look, about cafes, about protection of vehicles and pedestrians, about how you would set those kind of things up. They're very explicit diagrams, and if you all haven't had a chance to study that, I know you have a lot to do, but I recommend you take a look at it because there are streetscape diagrams in there that speak directly to the issues that we have in Town Square today. As a side note, what's really great is all the recent development in Riverdale Park and Hyattsville. You only need to go have a beer over at Denizens or eat at one of the cafes over in the EYA development in Hyattsville to know that they're really nice street designs. And these are public street designs. These are not things that the businesses do. These are public streetscapes that make it easy for the businesses to do things like put tables and chairs and activate those spaces. What I note is that today, there are a lot of people that do carry out from our businesses that are there, and they just sit anywhere because there are very few places to sit. What I see at Denizens and I see when I eat over in Hyattsville is there are places outside the businesses that are specifically there and they're protected and they're nice places for people to sit and eat casually. Again, Denizens actually provides service out in the cafe seating. That would be great too. I think you want to make the format from an urban design standpoint that allows those things to occur. Another piece of this is this idea of this fixed pedestrian plaza. As has been described, and I'm never really clear on how many parking spaces, but it eliminates many parking spaces. I think 15 is what I was heard, and we're recovering some from somewhere else. But the reality is picking up parking spaces on Rhode Island Avenue farther to the south is really robbing the parking spaces we already need, because we already know, as Mike had pointed out, is that we're in a period of growth. We've got more business space to fill up. We're going to need more parking, not less. So maintaining flexibility, making that pedestrian square available for parking when it's not in use, which is arguably the other 80% of the days of the year, I think makes a lot of sense. And you can make a pedestrian scaled plaza that is then, or area, piazza as we're calling it, that can be gated and metered and protected. So during important pedestrian times, it's well isolated from vehicular traffic, bicycle traffic, to allow pedestrians to come and go. Putting it towards the railroad tracks gives us a lot more flexibility. It keeps, obviously, the new Rhode Island Avenue open. It allows bicycle traffic to travel down the Rhode Island Avenue trolley trail freely, and means that if people want to go, that you provide appropriate pedestrian crossings into this market zone, special use zone on a regular basis. I think that those are the main points I wanted to make. I just wanted to encourage, again, this idea that we don't jump the gun on the decision-making. It is, to be clear, what has been proposed is a transportation engineering design project. It does not include many of the urban design aspects that I've just talked about today. And I think that's a big piece of this puzzle that's missing. I don't think it's difficult to accommodate. I think that the current engineers that are working on this, they have a huge firm and they have urban designers who actually do this work. We just didn't contract them to do that work. And so what I'm asking for is some reconsideration on these aspects, and I'm happy to work with the town council and the mayor and anybody who would need a hand.
Thank
you
you
very much.
Councilman Merlingua.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arnold. If you could please stay there just a moment. Regarding this, so essentially what you're saying that by giving this an additional 6 to 8 weeks for consideration time, also for the full meeting that Mr. Herman described with Mead and Hunt to work out this urban design incorporation into the plans, is essentially, while it's going to be an extended 6 to 8 weeks, this is something that later on down the road is going to save considerably more time should there need to be readjustments to the plan. Is that correct?
Absolutely. As Mr. Herman pointed out, the 10% design is a misnomer. 10% design means you are locking in the urban design, where the streets go. Once you locked in where the streets go, in this case, on this side, you are making a big move that you cannot change. I want to add to that too, is there are some unknowns that we have here that have kind of bubbled to the surface a little. I know the CSX thing has not been fully resolved yet. We know that there are agreements on both sides of the railroad tracks. Those have not been elucidated, as far as I know, and I think those are of interest. If the transportation engineers decided that they would go with scheme 2 because of something that CSX says, well, it'd be nice if we knew that as a matter of public record. Right now, we don't know those things. So that bears additional information, I think, on their part.
Okay, so also you're also worried about a determination of that variable about CSX.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, when you do a design project like this that's comprehensive, even transportation design, you need to exhaust all the givens. You need to know what the rules are. And CSX is, as we all know, baby Huey, and they do what they do, and they can show up later and say, no, you can't do that. And I was alluded in several meetings that CSX has some sway over this. I certainly know they own some of the property on the other side of the tracks. I have no idea what the arrangement is on this side. I mean, what was alluded to is that parking was required to be open on the west side of the tracks. I don't know what that means. But it does have an impact on perhaps how we access and would allocate space, even in that plaza that we decide, that I propose. I mean, there are ways to make that so there is vehicular access. But again, those are design details that would go after the big move, which is making a 4-way intersection and reopening Rhode Island Avenue. With the big caveat, we need to know what CSX is talking about.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Town Manager, you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing that I would like to provide some clarity for the community and the council. We did meet with CSX to discuss the project overall. There was no discussion about parking needing to be anything. What CSX advised the town was put your concepts together get to 10%,
3 ways.
and then we'll assign a project manager
I mean, that
who will
was,
then work with your design team. CSX was not interested in meeting, discussing, to try to work through, to have a back and forth dialogue until we got to that point. So just wanted to share that.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Town Manager, can I ask one clarification? Is it true that changes can be made in response to further discussions with CSX even after we approve this, if we approve this?
Changes may have to be made to either side. And it gets more complicated because while CSX owns the property, CSX has leases, for example, with the Maryland Railway Administration. But again, they did not want to entertain that until we could put something in front of them and say, this is what we would like to do, and then they would react to that. They were not interested in participating in the process. I'll say it that way. And they are historically difficult to work with.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for staff, a few things. First, to follow up on Councilmember Worsnop's question. Would anything, were we to adopt this motion tonight, would it preclude any of those changes that are suggested by CSX or may have to be made because of the dealings with CSX? Would anything prevent us from making those changes?
I'm unaware of anything that would prevent any change. This is all council directed. If we get to a point and as things are being fleshed out, the council says, nope, we want to go in a different direction, we follow the will of the council. In terms of CSX, we just look forward to sitting down and meeting with them and hearing what concerns they have, but they will not assign a project manager until the town gets to the point of saying, here's our 10%.
Thank you. And then I believe there was some email, but I'm looking for it, but I can't find it at the moment. Did we confirm whether the urban design folks that are part of the Mead and Hunt firm, did they have input on this? Did the designers consult that?
Well, I'm aware that Brian White is Mead and Hunt's urban person. And I believe Mayor Ing Yang had sent an email today on that.
Okay. I think that's all I have. Thank you. Or if you have any clarification on that question as well, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, I have some comments. I'll cover those
Sure,
as
thank
well. I want to make sure everyone else had an opportunity to chime in if they want to. Anyone else from the council? Anyone else from the public?
Yes, I'm here. I want to say something.
Sure, go ahead, Councilmember Cullen.
This question is going to the town manager. The town manager, let me ask this question. First of all, is this an investment or it's a private entity? Or who is funding this project? Thank you.
In terms of, so the town has the town center parking lot, and this would be considered a capital improvement to be owned by the town. And it's financed in large part on the west side of the tracks by the state of Maryland. We received an $850,000 bond bill.
So who is going to, these people are trying to design this parking lot. Are they employed by the state or by town of Riverdale Park?
The engineering firm is contracted. It's a private firm, and they have a contract with the town of Riverdale Park to perform this work.
So you are the one that are initiating all this?
I'm sorry, sir, I was unable to hear you.
I said you are the one that initiated all these projects for these people to come and redesign the parking lot at the town of town center.
In terms when you say initiated, I mean, it was a project that was started in the last administration in terms of solving this. The town staff were able to solicit the services of Mead and Hunt to sort of do this 10% design. And the motion right now was about approving that design and then authorizing town staff to be able to do another procurement for, I think, another firm to do the more detailed design.
Well, the next question, how many comments have we received from the residents? Let's know the amount of comment we have received from the comment, whether it's good or it's not good, so that we can move that.
I know we've received a lot of comments over the course of this sort of 9-month plus engagement, both in person and online, and also written as well in terms of email. Do we have like an exact number?
I don't have an exact number at this time, but we did receive a lot of very, very thoughtful, extensive comments from members of the community, both residents and even some of our business owners. So this has been I think, a good process overall. We've got a lot of public engagement. I think the first meeting we had 50 residents come out. In my 13 years with the town, I've never seen that many residents in a public meeting like that, and it was really fantastic. We've gotten quite a bit of impact or input from the residents, and I can count that if you just give me 1 second. But there's lots and lots of emails. So just give me 1 moment and I'll grab that for you. Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So how many people accept and how many people did they accept? So what I want you to give us that differences so that we can work on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. No other comments? We have a public comment. I'm sorry.
Yep, Heather Cronk, Ward 1. Just want to echo my comments from the previous resolution, feel the same way about this resolution. I think we should move. Just to speak a little bit to Councilmember Calhoun's concerns, we had a neighborhood potluck in our ward, in our neighborhood, on Saturday, and probably 40 people were there. At least half of them came up and asked, what is happening with this town redesign? Folks are anxious to get it done, anxious to get moving, anxious to get to the point where we can have some of the conversations about what does the streetscape look like? Where are we setting up outdoor dining? How do we make sure that everyone is moving safely? So just want to, again, encourage folks to move forward so that we can have those conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Johns. Turn the mic on. No problem.
Nova Johns, Ward 3. I've just clarification. I've been actively listening, engaging in this. So the 10% is not necessarily locking in, but locking into a design that's already on the table. One design, right?
I would say there is a design that's proposed.
Okay.
That the design staff created, there were multiple designs. They picked one, and so that's the one we're
And
talking
that's
about
part of the
right now.
10%. I mean, that's us committing to that with discussion. I understand her saying moving forward for discussion, but it's kind of like we're locking into that and we're discounting other designs that's where I'm not, I just am opposed to, I just believe in delaying it to engage in the other designs that haven't. I don't feel like moving forward is then talking about other designs. We're moving forward with one design, and sure, it can be tweaked a little bit, but it's not going to be tweaked to completely move it from A, B, and C. So I'm opposed to signing off on it today, and I believe we should delay it for all the other items to be discussed. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. You have
Mr. Mayor.
another,
Mr. Mayor, may I provide a timeline and some more information on the outreach?
sure.
So on November 18th and December 9th, 2024, the Walk Bike Drive Advisory Committee discussed the projects, and that was the group that was assembled to have, concentrated all sorts of experience and input on specifically related walk, bike, drive projects. So this is a really important project that they spoke about at that time. We did direct outreach via mail, email, and hand delivery of the flyers to businesses in and around town center and residences near the project. So this was the very beginning of the project. Information about the community input meeting was also shared through the town's communication platform's website, Facebook, Instagram, constant contact, all of those things. At the January 6th, 2025 meeting, the project team received initial input from the mayor, council, and community on the project. So we got our initial feedback. And then on January 13th, a community input meeting was held at Riverdale Elementary School. The Walk Bike Drive Advisory Committee coordinated that meeting, and approximately 50 members of the community were there, and they provided substantial input. Those were the goal setting. That was where everybody came together and gave their initial concerns. Following that meeting, we got 18 emails that were received from community members, which provided additional input. I just wanted to clarify, these were not just I support. These were very, very thoughtful emails explaining how this project impacts them, issues, and things that they have seen in the community. They did a great job. Residents provided a lot of really good feedback. So then on March the 10th, the Walk Bike Drive Advisory Committee again discussed the design concept. So that's where we got to 7 design concepts, 1, 2, 3 for the town center. And then, I'm sorry, there was 3A. So there was 4 for the town center and then 3 for the Totally Lafayette. On May the 12th, the mayor and council, the project team presented the concepts to the mayor and council, got initial feedback from the community and the mayor and council, of course. Again, direct outreach via mail, email, hand delivery of the flyers to the businesses in and around town center. Information about the design concepts and the second community input meeting was also shared. Public outreach was conducted at a pop-up at the farmers market on May the 15th. Input and feedback was collected, so that's where it's a little hard to give you the exact numbers of the folks we talked to. But we heard from a lot of people who don't live in Riverdale Park, but use the space for the farmers market. I think Councilman Smith will remember one of those interactions about the parking. Parking has always been a concern. So on May the 20th, a community input meeting was held at Riverdale Elementary School. We had approximately 20 members of the community there. Again, good input, great input, lots of feedback. And then on June the 5th, a meeting was held via Zoom for the businesses in and around town center. Direct outreach to the businesses was made via email and hand delivery of the PowerPoint presentation. So the actual presentation that explained the concepts, they were actually hand delivered. And then the businesses in attendance at that meeting provided substantial input on the design concepts, and those were incorporated by the project team. On June the 14th, public outreach was conducted at the Trolley Trail Day event, and that was widely attended. I think we had 1,000 people that were coming through the town center. Of course, not everybody stopped to talk about those projects, but we did get some good feedback there. And then following that, we got 14 emails from the community members, which provided additional input. Again, super thoughtful. I mean, people took a lot of time putting their thoughts together, and all of those things came together. And then from those design concepts, the recommended designs came through. And then on July the 24th, the Walk Bike Drive Advisory Committee discussed the recommended design concepts and provided feedback. The committee voted to support the recommended design concepts. On August the 4th, the recommended design concepts, the 10% concepts that we've been talking about, were presented to the mayor and council by the project team. The PowerPoint presentation made by the design team was translated into Spanish. The video from the discussion, the mayor and council meeting, the traffic simulation, and all of the information was added to the town's website and sent out through constant contact. So what we did as the process went on, everybody that participated in the process in any way, shape, or form they were added to the constant contact email list. And we kept a running tab of all of the different steps where we were. So all the videos and all of the presentations, we just kept building on that. And then as more people, came into the process, or it was identified that we didn't get everybody, we added those emails to the constant contact email database, and we continued to grow and grow. So I think it was a really substantial process. There was a lot. I can't say enough. The resident input was so thoughtful. I mean, they took their time, and it was amazing. I mean, this is what I do for a living, right? Like, the public input is the most important part. And so I just can't say enough that the residents did come out and do that. And I don't want to miss that the businesses also provided substantial input. And again, there were several things that were important, but parking has always come up. That has always been one of those things that the project team is very aware of, and they're working very hard to find that balance. So all of that coming together and trying to find balance, this is where we landed. And so I'm speaking on behalf of the team. I don't think Rodney and Brian couldn't be with us tonight, but that's the process we went through. So it didn't end there. Of course, we held other meetings with businesses, and we did the individual meetings, and we've done continued to put more information out on constant contact and status and information report and social media and all of those things. So I think we've done our best to get as many people involved in the process all along the way, and we'll continue to do that. That doesn't end today.
Thank you, Director Barnes. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Barnes, for that rundown that just kept going and going and going. And that's a good thing that we took so much input. And all of that, though, I think we left out some of the specific outreach that was done with the business community. And I know Mr. Shelton's on, and he coordinated some of that. I'm wondering if we could get a similar rundown there.
Director Shelton.
Absolutely. I know that Deputy Town Manager Barnes was very thorough, and it did cover some of those business outreach aspects as well. But to recap again, that in May, we had sent out invitations to businesses in the town center to participate in feedback and provide their opinions on the 3 designs that were being considered by the engineering team. And in June, we had that meeting. And then I know that we had a follow-up meeting as well for those one-on-one individual business outreach meetings. And so I believe at that first original meeting, there were 5 businesses that were able to attend that first meeting. And then when we had those individual meetings, there was an additional 3. Actually, one was a repeat. So it was 7 in total businesses that we had meetings with to discuss and answer questions with directly on the concept plans. And obviously we've had a lot of email correspondence as well, and we've made sure to share all of the feedback that we've received with the project team and kept them up to date on any new information that we've received from both businesses and residents.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Merling, is your mic on? Could you say something?
I'll hold on. I'll hold on for a second, but I would like to comment on something.
Okay. I will say that one, I appreciate Director Barnes, Deputy Town Manager. She has many hats that she holds for us. Laying out the timeline and the amount of input that has happened. I personally know that the west project that we're talking about had unique challenges when we look at it. Was sending it to your earlier point about the email. Mayor Thompson sent an email earlier today, and so I was writing some of my thoughts to him, which I guess probably helped me for this conversation now, in the sense that he asked about the importance of making sure that we have urban design planning sort of be a part of this. We even went back to Mead and Hunt to get clarification, and as the town manager mentioned, in terms of their, Brian White, who was the lead on this, is Mead and Hunt's sort of like their streets and trails lead, and does a lot of urban planning. He actually laid out his resume in terms of 15 to 27 years worth of doing this type of work around the DC metro area. And so and he called out specifically, though he's been referred to as the traffic consultants, he's more than just a traffic consultant. But, this project has, unique things and sort of some of the goals that we had in terms of that visioning statement of what we wanted this project to be. There were, one, obviously the importance of retaining parking. There are utility poles that exist in the parking lot. In a perfect world, we would do this entire space completely different. We would bury those utility lines if we could, but we knew that there were, cost realities in that. And so keeping the utility poles where they were, we were not allowed to sort of cut off Maryland Avenue as a through street. How do we make sure we ensure pedestrian access and increase bike and pedestrian safety? How do we slow traffic? How do we separate the trail from parking? How do we maintain traffic flow over the tracks while creating an appealing sort of walkable town center? To an earlier question that came up in terms of like the different designs, there was always a design that was similar, and maybe not exactly similar to what Mr. Arnold sort of laid out, where there's an alignment there's a true four-way stop at Queensbury and Rhode Island. That was a way to enter into the parking center area. That concept has always sort of been there, and that was always available for people to chime in on, though it might have been slightly different. Fundamentally, it was the same. I think the differences between these concepts are, on one, the importance of that redesign of that four-way intersection, the importance of creating sort of pedestrian first space, even at the extent of losing some parking. It was 15 parking spaces to be exact. The bike and pedestrian lane in terms of the bike trail, because of those light poles, were never going to be able to be sort of straight. So they were always going to have some type of journey to them. And so that was just another reality. And so I think that's where the differences came. When we talk about 10% design, I think the biggest difference is, and I say all this with the caveat of, as the town managers mentioned, if something unforeseen comes up, it's the council's discretion to change. We're not going to be like, well, we voted this thing in October, and so therefore we can make a change and we're just going to throw this whole thing away. Absolutely not. It's all in our discretion to be able to change it as necessary, especially if we hear things or learn of things that were not known at this particular moment, whether that's CSX or whether that's something with some other utility pole or whatever it is that we couldn't foresee. We had that ability. So I would take solace in knowing that we are not handcuffing ourselves without a shadow of a doubt to something right now. The reason why I consider this 10% design is that we're making an information based on what we know right now. We are giving the authorization for town staff to be able to hire a firm to do more detailed design so that we can sort of uncover things that we don't know at this moment. And the fundamental difference between the two things, between all the options, are around the four-way intersection, and is parking something that we want to preserve that is dedicated, or is it something that there's public space that should be dedicated and sort of valued? I think that's been a big discussion in terms of what that looks like. The details in terms of the materials used, or what's the length of the sidewalk between the businesses and the trail, and how do we make it clear that a person can sit here and eat in or dine out, or where the walk paths are. Those are parts of the more detailed design. But this idea of, is it valuable for the community to have a place where people can, where we take parking spots away so that there's dedicated sort of public pedestrian space, is something that we're voting on right now. Is it more valuable to sort of prioritize those who drive to town center and park? And again, when we talk about prioritize, it's not as if the other plan removes all parking. It is 15 spaces, which obviously we know is a lot when parking is limited. But we also were able to do town designs that talked about the type of parking, how many people park and dump their cars there for more than 8 hours at a time. Those are not all employees. There's opportunities for metered parking if we want to do that. There are other ways that we can talk about how do we ensure that people who want to drive there have opportunities to drive there and they're not parking their cars there. so that they can go on the MARC train or go to the University of Maryland or some other issues that we have sort of along in our community. And so that's what we're deciding on right now. The many different iterations of plans as the deputy town managers laid out is something that people have been aware for at least, before Trolley Trail Day, probably even before that. People have been able to vote on which ones they want. The plan that we're talking about right now, independently, was the more favorable in terms of like just raw public comments. The engineers and the designers said that that was their preferred one for a couple of reasons that should have been laid out in terms of the traffic issue with the trail and the need for that to be a four-way stop sign if we're going to have that, and the issue with the CSX trains and sort of backing that up. The idea of having a dedicated parking, dedicated pedestrian sort of plaza being there so that as a town we can use to activate as we so choose. And the other is, the long list of things that sort of laid out in terms of what plans and goals were for the space. And so this is not something that we stumbled upon. As been stated earlier, I think the quote that was from public comments, because people want something is not because doesn't necessarily make it right. And also we need to build a place for not where it is, but where it's going to be. I think this is a conversation on where do we think the town center is going to be? Is it going to be a place where we have more cars or less cars? Are we going to encourage people to walk and bike to our community? And when they get there, stick around longer? Or do we want it to be a place that's more transactional, like a Walmart, where you go in, get your stuff and you go? Or is it going to be a place where you go in for one thing, and you may stick around and go to another location or stick around and do something else? I think that's kind of some of the underlying things that we've been talking about. But again, I enjoy the fact that as a town council, if necessary, we can pivot as needed to make sure that this project happens, because we can't afford another 2 decades of this being in this state of flux. So, all right, we've been talking about this for it's 9:00 right now. There's a motion on the table. Are we ready to do a roll call vote, or council member, do you want to?
Yeah, I just want to say this. I know we've talked about this. I know this has been going on a long time. I know we've had numerous things, and I appreciate all the effort that has gone into this from everyone. Yet, looking back on this and all the things we brought up, I've seen this. We've been really talking about how we're addressing traffic flow through there, and looking back in my experience with what we went through with the Riverdale Park Station development. And the meetings through that and all the design that went into that and the back and forth, that there were a lot of extensive conversations regarding urban design and traffic flow and everything, and how that mixed together. And reading the point that was sent to us by Dr. Thompson regarding what information we do have and what's been presented, that I tend to agree that we are probably falling short in the area of having information and advice on urban design versus the traffic design in aspects to this current project. And that if we were to go to make a decision now, it probably is going to be premature. I know that there have been meetings, as was said, individually with businesses. But as Mr. Herman pointed out, there was a request from the Business Association to have one meeting with all stakeholders to really flesh out and talk about the urban design aspects of this project and what could be reached with modifications within the design standards presented. So at this point, I'm going to ask for a motion to table this to the December 1st meeting, so that to allow time for these type of meetings to have a further discussion on the further urban design elements of this aspect of the project.
Because there's already a motion on the table, do we need to vote on the first motion first, or because it's a tabling? Can we
On a
vote?
motion
I
to
would
table, you
defer
have.
to staff, but I believe a motion to table is in order while there is that motion on the table.
Think so. Just wanted to clarify that. So there's a motion to table this vote until the December 1st, you said?
Yes.
The December 1st meeting. Any discussion on the motion to table?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Smith?
I think, as stated, there was urban design principals and experts consulted in this and the leadership of the project. We've been at this for a long time, like has been said several times, a couple decades in principle, in serious, putting pen to paper and trying to come up with principles and goals and plans. Nearly a year at this point. We have an item on the agenda. We have a motion on the table. This is the first time this specific objection has been brought up. I wonder why, if it is such an important thing to have done, which by the way has been done. Why is it coming up at the last moment, literally while the motion is on the table? And for that reason, I would not support the motion to table and would encourage my colleagues to oppose it as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, member. Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Any other comments from the council on the?
Mr. Mayor, can we get order in the room, please?
Order in the room?
Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
I'm not a parliamentarian, but if a motion to table is going to be considered, it would require a second before you would consider the motion to table.
That is true. I apologize. So there is a motion to table the this vote until the December 1st meeting. Is there a second on the motion to table?
Second.
Second. Okay, thank you. So there's a motion, a second on the discussion now was on tabling this until the December 1st meeting. Councilmember Smith, I'm assuming we will consider your comments for this.
Restated. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments from council on the motion to table this until the December 1st meeting? We'll recognize the public in a second. Okay. Yep. You're right. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's important that we have our rules of procedure, because I think this is something that people would want to talk about. But at that rate, let's vote. Councilmember Smith.
Nay.
Councilmember Flo.
Nay.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop.
Nay.
Councilmember Ramos.
Nay.
Councilmember Cologne.
Yeah. Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. I vote nay as well. The motion fails 2 votes to 5. All right, so we still have a motion on the table to approve the concept recommendations for Town Center Trail and Parking Lot redesign project and authorize town staff for procurement for of design services. Is there any other comments on this, or we're ready to vote?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Cologne.
Right now, the parking lot, there's no reduction. It's still small for any occasion we have. You can see like some friends coming with their grills, coming with their children, a lot of cars. Still, we don't have enough space. If this parking lot happen to be reduced, what is going to happen in the future? That's my question.
If the question is to me, what would happen is less people would drive there and park there. Or as a council, we can decide that we want to have more metered parking. So people who go there actually are the ones who are using it for businesses and not dumping their cars. You can refer back to the 2 traffic studies that were done. I forget, it was like 20 or 30% of the cars there didn't move in 8 hours plus. So, you get half of those back. I think that'll probably get a lot of those 15 spots that we're missing, to answer your question. Okay. We've discussed this a lot. We'll go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Nay.
Councilmember Worsnop.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos.
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne. Councilmember Cologne. Councilmember, you're on mute. If you can hear us, we're voting on the motion to approve. I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Oh, I have
There you go. We hear you now. We hear you now. Go ahead. You want to vote?
no.
And I vote aye. The motion passes 5-2. Thank you all for discussion on this. Okay. We've got one more item for legislative items, and then we'll move on to the next part of the agenda. The last one is a motion to authorize the town manager to acquire an electric utility vehicle for the Department of Public Works for the amount not to exceed $42,476. Any presentation on this from town staff? I think it's pretty straightforward, but I'll give it to you if you don't want to add any more remarks.
I think that Mr. Redmond made it clear. If there's questions, he's here to entertain questions, but I think that this is just an opportunity for it's a vehicle that's needed, but
Councilmember, your mic is not muted. Thank you.
getting a vehicle that's electric is an opportunity to further the town's values and commitment to sustainability. And yes, so we have Mr. Robert Redmond here if there's questions about the vehicle.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Redmond, for being here, willing to answer any questions. Any questions from the council?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Smith.
Could staff or perhaps the Finance Committee Chair remind us, is this purchase something that was in the budget that we passed for this year?
This is in the approved fiscal 26 budget. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other comments or questions? Well, is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember.
I'd like to offer a motion to authorize the town manager to acquire an electric utility vehicle for the Department of Public Works for an amount not to exceed $42,476.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Smith and seconded by Councilmember Foe. Any other discussion on the motion?
Mr. Mayor, if I could just add, thank you to staff and the town manager for identifying a vehicle that aligns with our mission and commitment statements as a town and our commitment to sustainability. This is great, and I'm happy to support this purchase. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? I'll just add, I think I appreciate that as well. I know it's not easy to get electric vehicles for public use. We've been trying to sort of grow the neighborhood services fleet. And so exciting to see that there's an opportunity to add one for Public Works. So thank you for the work on that. Okay, with that, we'll go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop.
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos.
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. The motion passes 7-0. Awesome stuff. Okay, that ends the legislative action items for the meeting. Next, we have 3 items of unfinished business. The first being the donation to organizations supporting the immigrant community. Town staff has a presentation or I guess something to report on this.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, give me one moment to verify.
No problem.
Yes. So as Councilmember Smith mentioned at the last meeting, it's important to continue the conversation about how the town is able to support the immigrant community. And the most direct and quickest way from a town staff perspective is for the town to make a donation And so you have $21,500 in the undesignated social concern line. So there's $21,500 there. And from a staff perspective, referring back to previous conversations that the council has had about perhaps donating money to organizations that put on the Know Your Rights trainings and outreach like that, or whatever else that the council would like to do. But you have $21,500 there. And then I do want to share that staff have been working hard to build other programs. I had a good productive conversation with Councilmember Worsnop on Friday, Councilmember Lingua on Saturday, about different ideas that they shared, and staff had some ideas. We had a conversation last week, a meeting with Ms. Crunk tomorrow. It's going to take a little bit of time for us to flesh out what these other programs can look like. The one thing, and Councilmember Lingua, I hope it's all right I say this, but the one thing that came up in our discussion was we're 9 months into this. And so we have over 3 more years of programming that we need to have in place, and we got to figure out budget and funding and that to meet the council's goals, just kind of broadly. Is that accurate, sir? That it's going to take some time. So staff are working on that. We're exploring whether we can have partnerships with nonprofits, things of that nature. So in terms of tonight, I wanted to communicate how much money is in that line item. There's also $100,000 in our contingency budget line. But I think from the staff perspective, we really need to be thoughtful and come forward with proposals for you if we're going to recommend tapping into contingency.
Thank you. So we've talked about this, as we mentioned, in other times, even in the prior administration, in terms of what we want to use those undesignated funds for. The immigrant community was something that was a topic that came up even then and continued to now. Are there any sort of comments from council in terms of how best to sort of direct staff to think about this, or recommendations on things we'd want to make a donation to?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember
Thank you. Thank you to staff for working on a plan for what the town can do more broadly to support our community. On this, I know we've had some questions about what kinds of organizations the town can donate to. There were 2 that came up for me that probably need more investigation on this point. So one was Migrant Solidarity Mutual Aid, that I know has a few different kind of offices in the area, but so I would wonder if that is a place that we can give funds and what kinds of activities they could do with them. And then obviously we had talked about CASA in the past. I know they're probably very overwhelmed right now, but additional funds I'm sure could help. So I'll just put those 2 out there.
Thank you. Councilmember Ramos.
I did want to say thank you. I really appreciate you guys doing everything for the immigrants. I did want to say that last week I was with CASA and we were walking around the community. They have created a group in WhatsApp to keep us informed of when ICE is around. I'm going to try to go back this week with them as well, because we got some people to join the group, but not everybody. So at least with this group, it allows us to know who's in the area and be informed if they're outside. I spoke to Heather today and other young women that were in the Zoom meeting, Doris, Mara, and Sarah. And Sarah was actually one of the residents who went to Park Tanglewood to inform the residents not to come out because ICE was outside. And as the residents were getting ready, some of them weren't even able to take their kids to school that day in fear that they were going to be detained. But that helped a lot. I know that they have some organizations. I don't know if they're nonprofits that maybe we can work with, but I definitely want to include CASA because they're very proactive within Riverdale Ward 5 and Ward 6. So I would definitely say consider them as one of the organizations.
Thank you. The other thing I would add is I guess it's up to us to choose of how we want to like put strings or stipulations in terms of this. If it's we're donating to you, and I think the theory behind it is that these are organizations that are doing stuff that support the community. These are obviously tax dollars, and so, but I think it's up to us to sort of how stringent we want it to be. If it's like you can only use this for certain things, or more broadly, as terms of like things to consider when we talk about these funds. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think in terms of stipulations on the funding, I think it's important that we make sure that any programming that we fund happens here in our community in Riverdale Park. And I think that is important to demonstrate to the community that this is an issue we as a town care about and are devoting resources to, and that we can be a trusted partner for folks that live here, that we are the people that are here to keep folks safe, not the people here to pick folks up and take them somewhere else. I'm glad we're exploring that. I think that's very important. I think about the town manager's comments that we've got 3 more years of this. First of all, I admire the optimism, Mr. Town Manager, that we've only got 3 more years of this, because I think it's a lot longer than that. I think if you ask the people that live in public housing on Pennsylvania Avenue downtown, they would tell you they expect it to be longer than that. And even if it is only 3 years, a lot of our neighbors in 3 years won't be here because of the stuff that's happening. Since we last talked about this, ICE sent a helicopter to a residential building in Chicago, assaulted it, led naked children out in zip ties. They shot CS cans, crowd control gas, at reporters. I don't mean to ensure that the gas affected them, which would be a problem, at them, hit their persons. Arrested elected officials for asking for a warrant when ICE tried to arrest someone in their hospital bed. The president, since we last talked about this, called our American cities war zones, pledged to turn loose troops on those cities, and identified those that oppose the administration as quote, domestic terrorists and enemy within. I would add that he also unlawfully sent a communication saying that without trial, anyone that engages in flag burning will be imprisoned for 1 year. And I know we started tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I know some folks noticed I didn't stand, and that was on purpose. Didn't do it lightly or without thought. As folks know, I'm a person that once raised my right hand and promised to put my life on the line to defend things like the First Amendment. I think flag burning is silly and stupid. I think people have the absolute right to do it. And as we're continuing to sort of approach this as just how we can fund individual organizations to do work in the community, and I think that's very important. We should absolutely do that. We've got to keep in mind that there are hundreds, if not thousands of Americans every day that are being picked up and sent other places. Many times it's not even the country where they come from. Many times it's American citizens. Many times it's American citizens that the people that are doing it claim aren't American citizens, despite what courts and every bit of official action would say. So as all this is happening, what I am worried about is that we have a situation where ICE assumes anyone who's not white is subject to arrest. And we assume anyone that's wearing a vest that says ICE on it is authorized to be doing what they're doing. I don't want to assume, I'm not assuming that's what's happening, but I've been repeatedly asking questions about whether that's happening, and I'm not getting any answers that say it isn't. So I would just like to know, as we consider how we support the immigrant community, and again, supporting these organizations to do programming and provide direct services, that's very important. We should actually do that. I am really interested to hear a simple answer that says that we don't assume that just because somebody is abducting someone off our streets, that they're authorized to do that, and that we are asking for positive ID. I asked that question last week. I didn't get a clear answer. I'm hoping that we can get some from staff tonight, because I'm still not clear on it, and it's really important. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, council member. I think in terms of the so you took the conversation a slightly different angle. I think in terms of first your earlier point of how do we find an opportunity to support the community, knowing that this is going to be, sorry, I'm sitting down, knowing this is going to be, we're in it for the long haul is, I think, is an important aspect of it. And I think everyone is, if you're not aware, read about what's happening in Chicago. It's terrifying, and it's something that, it's we hope that never comes to our community. But I never thought it would happen in DC, and so it's already spread. So that's a concern that I think we all share. I actually saw things slightly differently in terms of the comment on the sort of the assumption. My take was that and I even wrote it in the town crier, if you see someone getting abducted, or if you have any concern about it, I think we even mentioned in this last meeting that you should call the town police and have them come in and show up so that they could, one, if it's a false, if it's some person being abducted and they're not an actual federal agent, then it's good that we have someone there from the town staff, town police, who are sort of trained in that. And if they are federal agents, they made it pretty clear that they feel 100% confident that they'd be able to have that conversation. I think getting into the tactics on how exactly you do your police business is, would be like, I don't expect someone to exactly ask me how I do my job at a technical level. I think we have to sort of hope and assume that our police chief is and his staff are equipped to be able to, one, build the relationships with local authorities, so that there is this relationship where, even though you're doing your business and I'm doing my business, if you're in our jurisdiction, it's common courtesy to sort of let us know ahead of time. And if that's not happening, if they show up, that they'll be sort of able to engage until they feel that they are comfortable with it. And if they aren't, then that's sort of using their professional understanding and discretion to sort of, advance that ball forward. I don't know what that question is, and that's a fair comment that we can definitely ask. But I just think that it's important to give some latitude. I'll speak personally. The way I personally feel like I wouldn't tell Director Lewis how best to do her job, and you should pave this street or clear this thing. I also wouldn't tell the police chief this is how you should do your job in a particular way. That we hire a town manager who is our employee, and ensure that it's a priority. I think we've made it clear, and I know you've articulated better than anyone on this council in terms of the importance of this area, and making sure that he knows, and our police chief and deputy chief are also in the room as well, for those who are on video, and have also heard your comments as well. So those are my thoughts on it. I know you have your mic unmuted, so I'll give you the opportunity if you want to speak right now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to clarify my comments and trying to stick to Robert's rules, which would say this is my last opportunity to speak. So understand that and not trying to have a back and forth here. I certainly, and thank you for your comments, Mr. Mayor, and I certainly do not want to micromanage anyone on staff, certainly do not want to micromanage the police department. I'm asking a very simple question. Is there a scenario when our officers come onto the scene of someone being abducted and we would let that operation proceed without asking for positive ID? That is the question that I'm clearly stating, and it's one that I haven't got a clear answer for. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Town manager, you'd like to respond, or some from staff?
I'll attempt to respond, sir.
Sure.
And I say that because I'm not, I don't believe that anything that the staff says in regards to this is going to be satisfactory.
Given an opportunity to respond, council member.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
In regards to, will there be a scenario where a person is being detained where we do not obtain credentials from the individuals who are carrying out that detention? Yes, that may occur. The police are trained, their knowledge, their skills, their abilities, their training on being able to recognize whether or not something is a law enforcement action or not a law enforcement action. And there are many, many circumstances and hypotheticals. This may happen and you don't have this, but this may happen and you don't have that. And I'm going to leave that to the police department, the officer who's there, who make those decisions every day. Before the immigration enforcement happened, we would get calls of someone impersonating a police officer, and the police would handle that. And the chief and I have met, and the chief is directing his staff, and I'll have the chief clarify, but that the chief's directing his staff that to when it's applicable, I'll use that word, to ask for credentials. However, there will be times, I don't know how many times, but there may be times, I'll say it that way, where the person we're asking for credentials from doesn't supply them. And the police will make a determination based on the totality of the circumstance, whether or not they have something in front of them that is reasonable, articulable suspicion that a crime is occurring or not. And if a crime is occurring, the police will act. If they don't have reasonable, articulable suspicion that a crime is occurring, then they cannot act. That would be improper. Chief, if I got any of that wrong?
I think you're spot on. What's happening with the microphone? As John mentioned, if we get a call for an abduction, we will respond and investigate it as a crime if it appears to be an abduction. We will ask for identification if there's no identification present. We'll ask to speak to a supervisor. We'll record it on body camera. But it has to be an abduction. If it's a law enforcement action, we're not going to interfere.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Just to get clarification, because, there are a lot of people right now in masks. We don't know if they're bounty hunters. We don't know if they're actually ICE. We don't know what legal entities they have. So if you're driving by, you see this masked man, are you willing to stop and ask what's going on? Or are we just gonna leave it to them to do what they're like? Are we gonna look the other way?
Sure. let me answer it this way. So if someone were to call that in, right, they think there's masked men, armed men that are unidentified, of course, we would respond. We encourage you to call.
Right, but what about if you're driving by and you see that?
Are they armed? I mean, what?
I mean, I don't know. If you're just driving by and you happen to see cars and these masked men and they're just grabbing people, zip tying them, are you at all going to intervene or you're just going to look the other way?
We're going to stop and investigate, right? We'd have to
That's what I
identify
wanted
who
to
this is.
confirm,
If
like,
it's
are
a
you-
legitimate law enforcement activity from a federal law enforcement officer,
Right.
we're going to interfere. No.
No, I get that. I saw the email. I get that. I know, I feel like my back is to the wall, but I just want to know what I can communicate to my community, what Riverdale Police is able to do and not do.
So again, I would encourage them to call us, right? And we would come out and investigate it. Because if it is an abduction, obviously it's a criminal matter and we'll investigate it. If an arrest need to be made, we'll make an arrest.
But if they refuse to identify themselves, there's nothing you can do.
So if it's a crime, it's a crime, right? It wouldn't matter if they identify themselves, but if it's a law enforcement operation, in my 29 years of being a law enforcement officer, I've never asked another law enforcement member to identify themselves and they refused. I'm not saying it wouldn't happen. I'm just saying in my experience, it's never happened.
Okay, I'll trust it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other comments? So I know we've discussed opportunities to provide funds for the community. The town managers mentioned that, you know, we have like $20,000 or so, a little more in our undesignated funds that as a council we can choose. There's been the Migrant Solidarity Mutual Aid, CASA as sort of examples. I think staff have the recommendation to like go in and look and see, especially for the Migrant Solidarity Mutual Aid. I think they are more established in other parts of the county and maybe not or other parts of the state and maybe not here. So to investigate there. I know we've had a good conversation in terms of people should call the police if they have any concern about any type of activity, arrest, detention that they see. And then police are instructed to investigate that. And if they determine it's a crime, then they'll sort of intervene. If they determine that it's a sort of legal federal activity, that'll be part of their sort of investigation. And everything, including sort of asking for supervisors and doing this all on body cam. So it's sort of reviewed. Anything else that we want to pass on to staff on this topic before we move to the next one?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Kalan.
funding the immigrants is good, but there are some residents, some retired residents, some veterans, they are struggling what to eat. What are we going to do to help this type of situation? The immigrants, yes, we can help them. They said when the dance is sweet, it happens we have somebody inside the dance, like a family member. You yourself can enjoy the dance. So now the immigrants, yes, we can help them. But what about these people? Some of these retired people, veterans, or ageable people, some are suffering. Some don't have a rent. So how are we going to help them? Okay, this immigrant, how are we going to know this is an immigrant, this is not an immigrant? How are we going to disburse this money? Or are they going to apply at food stamp, to go and apply for food stamp? So this is the question. We can help them. We are ready to help them. But where are they? Where are we going to find them? Who are we going to give this money to, disburse it to them? Let them go to social services and apply so that they can have a food stamp. Then so retirees are there. Veteran police, some government retirees, they are struggling. And they are not far from us. They are within us. So this is my question. What are we going to do for them?
Thank you, Councilmember. I think the idea of there are other issues that the town council could be sort of focused in on is a valid thing to bring up. I think for the reason why we're on this topic is that this is something that we've been talking about for a while, and I think there's a majority of the council that wants to support it. That does not necessarily mean that we can't support any other initiative. And I definitely encourage you to sort of, we can have a conversation, discuss what that might look like. You mentioned the sort of retiree or maybe those on fixed income. I know that some of the services that you did mention, just for clarification, a lot of members in the immigrant community are not eligible for those. And so in terms of where the money would go, the plan is not to sort of stand up a new program. This would be sort of supporting an existing organization that's already has connections in the community and would be sort of helping their cause. And so it would be passing money to an organization that's already doing this work in the community to sort of help with their effort, as opposed to us starting and standing up our own community, our own program. But thank you for your comments in terms of like wanting to sort of include or think about other causes that are sort of outside the immigrant community. We have a public comment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council. I wanted to just speak on this topic briefly. A lot of us came out and spoke at the last meeting, and we're really appreciative of the council's openness to that conversation. As the town manager mentioned, we're meeting with him tomorrow, the town manager and the deputy town manager tomorrow. We've mentioned a couple of organizations, and I want to just give some context for those, and then I have another ask as well. The first is CASA, which is an extraordinary organization that has worked in Maryland, but specifically in this community for a very long time, is deeply trusted by immigrants in this community, and would wholeheartedly support moving support to them. Councilmember Worsnop also mentioned MISMA, Mutual Migrant Solidarity Mutual Aid, which wants to be doing more in this community, has set up rapid response support networks in other communities, and wants to be here but doesn't have the funding to be able to extend out to this community, but is very active along the Route 1 corridor south of us. And it would be, I think, extraordinarily helpful for them to have more resources to do that work. And then the third organization that I've been working with to additionally do rapid response work, both when ICE is doing enforcement or ICE adjacent vigilantes are doing enforcement in this area, and also to do community care afterwards to make sure that the families of those folks who have been abducted or detained have support, is Prince George's County Immigrant Rights Collective, PGIRC, who I believe has a fiscal sponsor that's a 501c3. All of those organizations have the ability to receive public funding through a 501c3 designation. Highly encourage that from the council, and encourage moving that money quickly, because that money was needed months, if not years ago. And so I'd advocate for moving it quickly. The other thing that the town manager brought up was the contingency fund for the town. I don't propose emptying that out for this purpose, but I do want to encourage folks to think about this as a really important contingency that we could pull from that fund. There are many folks in this community who, either because they will be abducted or detained, or because it is no longer viable for them to live in this community, will not be here. The clock is very literally ticking on that. The longer the council takes on making that decision, the more of our neighbors are going to be gone, whether it's their choice or not. So I'd highly encourage the council to explore tapping into that contingency fund for this purpose. And I think also Councilmember Calhoun is right. There are a lot of people who are hurting right now. Some of those folks are immigrants, not all of those folks are immigrants. And so to the extent that we can open up that fund to help folks who are hurting, whether those are federal workers or other people who are suffering under this administration, would highly encourage that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I appreciate the comments on this. Let's move to the next item of unfinished business, which is council rules of procedure. I know in the pack that the council got was a list of rules of procedure from many of our neighboring municipalities. We just approved sort of the use of Robert's rules as a sort of governing body and as parliamentary process. But I think there are a lot of things that Robert's rules does not cover that impact our community. And so we have an opportunity to basically choose how we are governed or how we proceed, as well as lay out what our mission is in terms of a council, what we choose to do, what we choose to prioritize, as well as the logistic things of what do we mean for hybrid meetings, when do we have public comments. Those are all sort of things. So each municipality does it slightly different, but it's an opportunity for us to lay out everything from, like it says, methods, standards, agenda development process, as well as decorum, standards of conduct, how long meetings are, how long we have for comments. All that is sort of, put in one document so that if, the reality is we operate on 2-year terms. And so at any point in time, there could be 7 different people in the chairs right here. And if that was the case, what document do people have right now in order to know, well, what is this job and how do I do it? At the moment, we don't really have something like that. So there's an opportunity to do something here. I would first just say, hopefully people are able to read some of the other examples. I know since the council retreat that we had a few months ago, it was sort of first talked about sort of the need for this. As a body, it's important, I think we all adopt into this so that we take ownership of what it means to be on this council and what those rules are. And so I'll pause there and see if there's any other council comments on this topic.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Smith.
Thanks to the miracles of modern technology, I can tell you that about 10 minutes ago, we received an email from Ward 1 resident, Dr., shall I say, Levi Shanks, who notes that he is a former registered parliamentarian and is happy to offer his expertise to the council.
I have a corresponding text for the record.
So it's seconded. So I think if Mr. Shanks is still watching, Dr. Shanks, sorry, we should definitely take him up on that. And I think overall this agenda item this item is a good place to go to keep us organized, keep our meetings moving expeditiously as a council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. That's a full-time job, parliamentarian, in a lot of instances. Any other comments on this?
Mr. Mayor, I agree. We should pursue it. I personally need more time to consider all of the options, given everything that we have been discussing and working on. But I thank town staff for putting these together and look forward to discussing them more fully.
Thank you. Any public comments on the sort of rules of procedure? Is there anything that we don't want to do, we don't want in, or we definitely want to prioritize? I think the next steps will be sort of staff will be trying to put together sort of at least something that we can sort of push back against and sort of poke holes in, and at least so that we're not discussing 7 different options, but at least have a straw man that we kind of sort through. But again, I just highly encourage from everyone, whether you're been on the council for almost 2 decades or almost 2 months, we run that gambit here, and I think it's important to bring in your perspectives on this. And I would again encourage to think about it's not just for us right now, which will be useful for, but is for the brand new council member who may come in, so they understand what we're doing, and that we can, you know, point the public to, so they also understand how best to interact with us and how we work. Councilmember Linwood, your mic is unmuted.
Yeah, I agree with my colleague from Ward 4. It's a considerable read. I think it's something, though, that, you know, we come back work session 3 weeks from now, which is going to be the 27th, and just be able to have that discussion. If Mr. Shanks wants to come in at that time and provide comment, that would be great. But I think we all just get ready for that date, be able to offer opinions on it. That'd be a good item for the agenda.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any public comments? Okay.
Yes, Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Kalun, go ahead.
I think we have to consider about it, not now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next, we'll go to the council discussion on state legislative priorities as our next topic. I'll give some background on this. Our state senator, Senator Alonzo Washington, has asked all of the municipalities to sort of think about what our legislative priorities are for the next legislative session that starts in January. Prince George's County, Maryland, Municipal League Association has also been thinking about what our legislative priorities. Pretty much everyone is asking the same thing. For those who aren't aware, the legislative session is only 90 days in Maryland, and so it goes extremely quickly. And in order for you to have a bill come up to get a hearing, you kind of need to be up first and sort of have that information done early. And so the work is being done now to make that list known so that it has an opportunity to at least get a hearing and be considered for this session. And so I think it's important as a council, we come up with our list of priorities. Otherwise, it'll be made for us from other municipalities, right? And so I think it's important that we think of that. I know there's a couple items that sort of come top of mind for me that some of them we've seen we've talked about this in previous years. Stormwater retention, stormwater management has always been something that's been top of mind for us for a while. I know personally the connectivity to especially our Purple Line stations that are coming in, but I think even more broadly of just how do we connect our bikes, our bike trails, pedestrian crossings, sidewalk infrastructure across town is something that we should consider. We've talked about the bridge right here further down the street on Riverdale Road in terms of that's a state project that needs funding to sort of the expansion of that is, I think, another sort of priority. And I'm just spitballing here, but I think if there are other things that we feel are important, now is the time to talk about it so that we can have town staff to try to do any due diligence on it. So we come prepared. One goal that I have is we should all be equipped to talk about what our short list is in case you find yourself bumping into anyone, whether that is any of our delegates, if it's our state senator or any state senator, if it's someone from the county council, if it's a county executive, if it's a resident or a business owner. Like, people want to know what we think about and what we prioritize, because there's an assumption that we have the ability or we spend more time thinking about this. So if there's things top of mind right now, the folks want to at least have staff maybe start to consider, please feel free to bring it up now. Obviously, we're going to continue talking about this, but I think there is a short-term, I think PGCMA, the sort of Maryland Municipal League for Prince George's County Association, has a survey that they're looking for feedback, I think, at the end of this week. So we'll need to provide something then, but this is an ongoing conversation. There's going to be a legislative dinner the first Tuesday after Thanksgiving in New Carrollton or Hyattsville or Greenbelt. Well, one of these municipalities are going to host that, and we're going to have to present. I know. Well, whether we host it or not, that's a different conversation, but it's going to happen. So I'll pause here, leave the floor open if anyone has any comments that they'd want to sort of at least consider now, knowing that obviously we need to stay on top of this.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Smith.
As usual, when we have these conversations, I will continue to advocate for some state funding to address Wells Run and stormwater issues in our community. A reminder that we have areas of our community that 15, 20 years ago were not in a floodplain. They are now in a floodplain, which impacts their insurance bills and things like that. And it's a project we're doing everything we can here in town. And thank you to staff for everything they're doing on the Baltimore Avenue site for hopefully tearing up some impermeable surface there. That's going to help a lot. But overall, fixing the issues with Wells Run is not something we're going to have the resources or capacity to do as a town. It's going to require state and maybe federal help. But certainly any opportunity like this to raise that with our delegation as legislative priority, I think we should do that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Mr. Bear?
Councilmember Foe.
The first thing that came to my mind when you mentioned this was communities in Western Maryland ravaged by flooding, denied FEMA funding. I feel like that is absolutely abhorrent. And I believe it is in the best interests of our state to make those communities whole, recognizing it's not who they vote for, but recognizing that we are a commonwealth together. And I just want to advocate that, their schools are repaired, their libraries are repaired, their infrastructure is good, just to show support to the entirety of the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other council comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Councilmember Millingwood.
I know regarding Wells Run, there's considerable money being put forward by the county in terms of reconfiguring or refurbishing those waterways that lead down to the Northeast Branch. Where they are on that, and I think it would probably be good if we had an update from the county on where that project is. I know in the past, the last meeting, Mayor made some very specific requests for appropriations for specific projects, with dollar amounts attached. And I think if we're able to identify something and be able to do something in a similar vein, I know I remember at that dinner, that was greatly appreciated because it allows them to go in with something very specific with a dollar amount. I don't know if staff has anything right off the top of their, on their list that they would want to look and have funding towards that the state could help with. Might be something that we could look at.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you're right. I think in the idea of the more specific things we can, the better. I know talking to the state senator, our state senator, Senator Washington, he has prioritized quote unquote shovel ready projects. So the more realistic this is, or the further along in terms of the thought process, I think it's easier on his side to be able to get funding for it. And so in the briefing, town staff put together some other examples that I think are pretty ambitious that we should think about. The Purple Line Neighborhood Revitalization Connectivity Project is something that I know I've been harping on for the last 2 years, and that's sort of the Kenilworth Avenue, sort of Quintana, 54th Place, Patterson Streets. That neighborhood lacks lighting, a lot of sidewalk infrastructure, as well as paving. That's one. They're one of the closest to the Purple Line station. It may be the hardest for them to get there. And then what was also added was this, Southeast Riverdale Park multifamily neighborhood revitalization project phase 2. I think if you look at wards 5 and 6, a lot of that housing stock has not been touched since the 60s. And so what would it mean to really have the state sort of commit funds to that area and be thinking about it well before the Purple Line stations are done, because we know that's when there'll be a lot of activity to it, but trying to dedicate funds to that area, whether it's us doing a study or a survey, or, I'm sure there's a lot of uses, but I think gaining attention to that is something that is in the meeting briefing materials, and I think is also super important. we know that the Purple Line stations are coming, and I think that is an opportunity for us to sort of anchor and tie things to that. Will get attention. I was going to talk about the mayor's report, but met with the Purple Line sort of project leader, someone from State Highway Authority, as well as the senator's office, Senator Washington, and CCAR. Like I think a week and a half ago, and the conversation came up again in terms, it was mainly around the underpass for the Kenilworth project, but the conversation expanded to be about connectivity and safety. And so it's top of mind for everyone. And so I think there's some momentum that can build that personally, I think as many things that we can attach to the Purple Line, whether it's connectivity to it, whether it's housing around it, I think there's a bit of a vehicle there that we can sort of, gain in that might be different from some of the things that were included from previous years that the district, more holistically thinking about juvenile justice reform or mental health and addiction services, environmental sustainability and justice. Some of those things were things that we're pressing obviously in the moment over the past couple of years, but I think the Purple Line housing and connectivity sort of touches on a bunch of things that we've already prioritized, from the walk, bike, drive, committee and programming to sort of the need for economic development east of the river to housing. And so, again, things to consider. We don't have to flush it out right now, but if you come to mind, please feel free to email staff or myself things that you're thinking of, and I think it'd be super helpful.
Yeah. I think that's a good avenue to go down, that area, being that's paramount project right now for the state, is that type of development in that area.
Thank you. Okay. So we'll wrap this conversation up for unfinished business, and then we have new business. And I know we actually have a presentation from someone from Pannoni. Hopefully you're still with us. Oh, that's great. So the welcome sign designs. This is something I think we talked about this when I first joined the council, 2.5 years ago, of, how do we welcome people into our community? We knew that we have obviously a new beautiful town seal. And so we knew at the very least we needed to upgrade some of these. And I know there were a bunch of presentations and some changes. And so looking forward to hearing more about the updates, since I think it's been a little bit of a while since we've talked about this.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So we have Ryan Shelton, who's going to present along with a representative from Pannoni. I'll give one introductory comment. As the mayor said, this was in front of the council before. The council actually selected a design and said, yes, move forward, only to find out that what had been designed by the contracted firm was not in line with SHA guidance. So they had to go back to the drawing board and redesign. And that's why this is coming back to you. Mr. Shelton.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As the Town Manager said, this is an update on the designs that are recently updated based on conversations with SHA. As a reminder, these signs are designed to go with the municipal boundaries, specifically initially on Kenilworth Avenue on MD 201 and East West Highway MD 410. Those were the larger signs. So Pannoni has updated our renderings in several sizes, including the large 7 foot by 3.5 foot and 5.5 by 4 foot, a small 4 foot by 4 foot and 4 foot by 3.5 foot, and a smallest sign for 2.5 by 2.5, which is for much smaller streets. Pardon me. So the designs attached to this cover memo include all of those different sizes in 2 different colors, but also with different color posts as well for the signs to go on and into the ground. And as far as next steps, once the design direction has been selected, staff will prepare and release an invitation to bid to begin fabrication and installation. And as the town manager said, we are somebody from Panoni was kind enough to come and attend the meeting tonight. So, Jalen, do you want to elaborate at all on my description of the welcome sign so far? I know you've been very patient.
Thank you. Sorry, I was, I did not know. Can you guys hear me? Oh, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. See, I lost my all talking points in the last 3 hours, but try to get back hopefully. We designed total big BR large and small and smallest as Ron said. If you move to the next page, please. We're using the new, I guess the approved color, and the text this time is also the seal using for the town. I know you have basically 3 colors, category, yellow, blue, and green. So we kind of like choose 2 can get this kind of form. The 7 feet wide is probably the only intent, if it can be used, will be on 201. Because it has a wide median. But I have been told, Ron, most of the time, several times, it's like in the state highway guideline, they're not really recommended to put the sign in the median. But anyway, we are trying to accommodate by using a breakaway post, which will be a wood post, but understand the decorative on the post. So we propose some of the post cap or the top, in the variety of the design. This is just one of them. And then we use a different color. Also you don't want to be too unique, because just in case you get knocked down, you don't, gotta waiting for the material for put it back up. So that's kind of intent, why we post those designs. So this is kind of like yellow post on the sign. And also I believe we have a white post, which is mimic whatever the current sign, because the current sign post, your welcome sign is white post. So this kind of one of the kind of three design have 2 different kind of the design sign face, and 3 different of a combination for the post. And the large sign option 2, this sign can be used actually both on the 210 or on the 201 or on the 410, because the median over there is much narrower. They're not fitted for 7 feet wide. So a narrower version for this big sign was actually designed for that particular purpose. Similar, we used the 2 different kind of sign face design and combined with the 3 different post on side colors. And then the small sign option, which we kind of have a 2 option there. To meet all the sign design here, all the text size is compliant with Maryland State highway standards. So for the small sign, even the post speed is 30 to 35, they still require 6-inch for the text height, and put all the text together. That's probably that's kind of one of the size. Actually, 2 of the size we come up with. The sign will be 4 feet wide. It can be a little bit taller as a 4 feet tall, or can be a little bit smaller as a 3.5. So that's kind of 2 design we come up for the different sign size. Same thing. We use the different post. It's probably can be choose if you do want to post to stick up on the top as well. But so far, because the arch on the top, so we didn't do that. But again, this is kind of like definitely welcome for your comments. And I think more recently, this is a 2A, which is the same width, but only difference is the height is a little bit crunch than the 4 feet. It's not square, so that's what it is. We also designed so different kind of the post. And then the last one is more recently, I think we developed much smaller size, because understand you're would like to use on your local street. And it's a 4-inch height for the text. So which means there's, kind of less the size of sign can be even smaller. same concept, you know, 2 sign face design and 3 different kind of posts. And I believe your current sign is kind of like 24-inch wide, which about 2 foot wide, but kind of like a long. So it's not the same. Definitely, we didn't use the same shape. We was kind of like follow the big sign design shape, you know, kind of like make those small sign. So that's kind of like the design in, you know, kind of design intent behind why we developed those signs there.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Super helpful to sort of see the 7-foot wide large sign, and then also seeing a 5.5 feet wide, and then the other smaller signs are essentially 4 feet or 30 inches, and so your question, your comment was just, our current signs that are on one post are narrow and longer, like 2.5 feet wide, and then you said how tall?
I would say probably 3 and more because I didn't measure the tall. I was measure the width because that's kind of like when I was the road side did it.
Okay, but they're different. They're not square. They're more like,
In not square, yeah. Mhm.
okay. Thank you. Any comments from council on this? Councilman Ringwood.
Yeah, I think we should probably be looking at more towards the smaller size signs. Double post, single post, I'd kind of more partial to the single post idea. I think, you know, in terms of like what kind of background, color, I'm really not partial to one or the other. In terms of type style, I'm okay with it. I'm just seeing that, you know, there's an opportunity, you know, if there's a way, if we can look at something that there's more of an arc, we build an arc into like the type style. Because right now it's just very linear across. Just, you know, slight one, you know, real subtle, something like that, you know, that's a possibility. I wouldn't mind seeing a design style looking like that. Those are my main comments on it. So the aversion I have to the large one is as neat it would be a canvas for a spray can or something. I mean, you see that the smaller ones we've been okay because they're smaller. There's just not, I mean, you can still see them as you're driving, as you're going by. Just when you get something, when you have something that big, it becomes attractive for the creative types out there. So.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. I think in terms of color, I really like and would encourage us to go with the blue option. I think it's easy to pass by the green option as much as I love the green elements of our seal and think, you know, those are really great. It's easy to drive by the green background sign here and, you know, just see another road sign and ignore it. I am kind of partial to the larger sign. I think where we can, which it sounds like is limited, having the Riverdale and Park, that's a subtle thing, but for people to be able to see that on one line and unified, versus just the Riverdale break Park, I think that's important in terms of town branding. And I know there are different things, or I believe there are different things you can do with paint treatments and whatnot to, if there is graffiti, to make that easy to clean off. I think whatever size we have, it's going to encounter some sort of graffiti problem, but I do take the point. I'm not opposed to the curved option mentioned by the member suggested. I would just ask that we do a check on like accessibility there. I know, I believe in some of the like web design stuff I've looked at in my day job, that can be a problem for some folks. If it's not, then no objection there. In terms of posts, I don't really have any strong opinions. If folks like one color over another, that's fine. As long as, I think my one bias on that piece would be whatever's easiest whatever requires the least maintenance would be the best option, I think. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Any other comments from council on this?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Worsthop?
First, thank you for your work. We appreciate it. I also like having Riverdale Park on one line if possible, assuming that something can be done, as was just suggested by my colleague, to make potential graffiti easier to clean off. I also like the blue background, also for the same reason, to distinguish it from other street signs. And I will leave my comments there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comments on the signs? I also want to thank you for obviously doing this design and sticking around for the meeting. We had a good one so far, so you picked a good one to be here for. I think I like the blue as well. I think it stands out and it makes the seal pop. So that's one of the reasons I like it. I do like the Riverdale Park on one line is good, and so even if that's just on Kenilworth Avenue, I'm okay with that. In terms of the materials for the posts, whatever looks good against the blue sign. I'm a little concerned about the wood up against the border is going to be that sort of maize color. I wouldn't want it to sort of conflict. So whatever makes sense that way. And then in terms of the smaller signs, since I know we'll need some of those. I think it would be helpful. The only thing if at all possible, to sort of see this, I think 7 feet is one of those things that people don't realize how big 7 feet is. Like, just like you don't realize how big highway signs are until they're on the ground. Like 7 feet, we see that thing you can see it from Greenbelt, and maybe that's the point, right? But just the 3 feet versus 4 feet versus, the 3.5 feet. I think that's an element of like what the differences are might be helpful. So even if there's like, this is what a sign would look like, even if it's not the full treatment, might be helpful just to get a sense of what that is for the council to kind of touch and play and feel with that. Would be my only other suggestion, since the differences between those are we probably need to see it relative to an existing sign to get a sense of it.
Yeah, so if I can just give some explanation there. So the 7 feet is, like you said, it's really big. And it can probably, like I said, it's only be able to use under 201 because of the wide median. The smaller signs, not the smallest. The middle level is more using on the roadside, but typically on the state highway road like US 1. You can put on roadside, and the speed limit on those road is like much lower than 201. I believe 201 at least 50. So you have to have a big sign. You have to have I say have to, because on the high speed while you're driving, you want people read the word. So that's kind of like why the difference on size, the height of the letter matters. And for a smaller, lower speed, you tend to drive, of course, you tend to drive slower. So you have a little bit more time to read those letters, and the road is not that wide. Both of the sign will be bigger than what you currently have on those roads. I know you don't have a sign on US 1 right now, but you do have a sign on 201 and also on 410.
Yeah. No, thank you. And which is I know we talked about this. The unique part is if you were coming sort of south on US 1, the sign would be on the right-hand side of the road, but that's actually not Riverdale Park. That's University Park, and so unless we have like the sign on the left-hand side of the road on like the opposite side of like the College Park welcome sign, like if we make an agreement there, like it's awkward, but it's not the end of the world. Something I think we can consider. But I do think it's really important that we are making it clear when you're in Riverdale Park. We did a walk and talk in the community, and we noticed that there were signs that were right before the bridge, which basically would cut off 2 of our wards, right? And I would never want people to mistake certain parts of our town to not be part of our town, right? I think that perpetuates, historical stigma that we are actively trying to work against. I want everyone to, know that you're in Riverdale Park just because of the look and feel and energy of it. But if that doesn't work, at least there's a sign that makes it clear. So I think I appreciate your feedback on this, and hopefully you have useful information from the council. And I think the only thing I would ask is just some way to sort of help the town, the council sort of think through some of the nuances and some of the smaller options, just so that we get a sense of, is 36 feet or 4 feet the right call, or is it 3 feet versus, the last question I do have is just for the big signs, I'm assuming that these would be sort of pretty low to the ground, right? If it's 7 feet wide, it's not going to be like 5 feet off the ground.
No, it will be tall on the ground. It will be 5 feet at least. I think technically speaking, state highway requires 7 feet above the ground.
Really? Wow. That's okay. That's good to know. So at least 7 feet off the ground, you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, because the clearance. So if you put a long, that's actually, I think, like Ron said, we are designed this follow the Marin State Highway jurisdiction welcome sign guidance. So I understand that, it's kind of like, hey, you are doing a sign on the road, so they consider, just I don't want anything happen, but if anything happen when people hit the sign, the post, it's not hit the sign. You know what I mean? Like then because the post is breakaway and it can fly with the windshield. So that's what all the traffic sign design based on that philosophy. So they won't want it on the ground because then you don't have the breakaway piece there.
I'm assuming people are grandfathered in on some of these things. I know definitely I've seen I'm not going to, rat anyone out, but I mean, okay. No, that's super helpful. Thank you for that. I think that changes the, a 7 by 3.5 foot sign, 7 feet off the ground is a different thing. So thank you. Any other comments on this?
Mr. Mayor, I just had one question. Is it intended that one of the larger signs, or any of the signs actually, would those replace the brick sign that is at the southeast, I'm directionally challenged, sorry if that's not right, corner of 410 and Route 1 in front of the Wells Fargo building?
You mean the sign
That
that's
was-
clearly out of compliance?
Yes. The brick on the ground sign that would definitely cause damage in the safety.
Director Shelton, you have a response to that?
Is it?
Absolutely. So that was not one of our priority locations, yes. I think we were trying to first or replace some of the other locations first, and then we would certainly get around to that one after we've had success at the other locations. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Shelton.
Thank you. Any other comments on this? Okay. Thank you, Madam from Pannoni and Director Shelton on this topic. I think we're all excited to sort of have this project move forward. And if there are any other comments that come in, please feel free to reach out to town staff on this.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. It is 10:22. The last parts of our agenda are the mayor report, town manager report, and ward reports. I will be brief in the mayor's report. For me right now, I'll just say thank you for everyone who engaged in this process. I know that public engagement can be a challenge because you will hear things you agree with and hear things you disagree with, but people have the right to comment. I think that's the beauty of our form of government, and people being able to freely express their approval or rejection or their disagreements for things that are in front of this council and what's going on with this town is something that I celebrate, even if it makes our meetings run a little longer. We're better off for it. And so, one, I just want to say I'm grateful and thankful for that. I know the two projects that we sort of approve right now are in the beginning of a long process, and they've been on this process for a long period of time. I know that everyone didn't agree. It wasn't a unanimous vote, and there was sort of a lot of great ideas and well-intentioned dissent. And I think it's good. I think it's perfectly fine and healthy, and that balance will keep us, with a better project at the end of the road as a result of this. In my professional work, I'm like the chief of staff for a large engineering organization. I feel like half of my job is making sure that creating conditions where people can dissent positively. You can argue and hash it out, but when commitments are made, there's called the commit, where it's like, okay, the decision has been made. How do we make sure that we implement this in the best possible way? And so I ask everyone in the community that, let's actively work together to make sure that, as these projects progress through, that we find opportunities to share our voice and help usher in the best project that everyone here and future generations will be proud of. I talked about legislative stuff that I think is really important. Again, if you have concerns, this is some really important that we talk about this and we got to get organized, as they say, and it's our role on council. As much as I love these meetings and sort of being here and hashing some of these things out, the step level change that happens in our community starts from being able to get our county, state, and federal partners to agree with us and help us out on things. And so it's not in the job description because we don't have a rules of procedure and a vision statement in there that really kind of lays it out, but I'm just letting you all know that's part of the job description. And so we've all talked about things. I'm happy to help take the pen on things, happy to work with staff. We all should feel empowered to do that. But as I mentioned, my goal is to make sure that we all have our talking points that we will, I would love to have feedback where everyone in your council is always telling us all the things that we should be working on. Like that's good trouble that we want to cause. So with that, I'll leave a lot of my other comments to another meeting in the interest of time, but I will conclude my mayor's report there. And next is the town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be as brief as possible. So we had a movie night as part of Hispanic Heritage Month. It was held on Saturday in partnership with Riversdale House Museum. Just want to thank the chief and the officers who were there to do some community building. We had about 75 residents who attended. Some other upcoming events, continuing with Hispanic Heritage Month, there's a community conversation October 11th at Riversdale House Museum. The town is partnered with Riversdale on this, and that's from 2 until 4 p.m. And then on October 15th is Coffee with a Cop at Starbucks up in Riverdale Park Station. We had a walk and talk scheduled for Saturday, October the 18th. And so we're canceling the walk and talk. Staff came up with an idea. I've shared this with the mayor. I think this could be a good opportunity. We just got to pick a different date because we won't have things put together by the 18th. But you drive through different areas and you see folks that put a sign in front of their house that some say everyone's welcome, others say immigrant rights, and sometimes those things are all on one sign, and love is love, and all those sorts of things. So we've asked some of our staff to design a sign that incorporates the town seal, and staff were thinking it could be a good opportunity if we take a Saturday And we could have Public Works supporting the effort, but perhaps the council, if you're available, could join us out walking the community and knocking on some doors and handing out some signs to send a clear message of what the town's values are. So that's something that we're working to put together. And you'll probably hear from Ms. Barnes on the scheduling and the coordination of that. And it's her staff that's putting this together. Next thing, just I share this because it's a frustration. And I have voiced this frustration before, and that's with the county. And it's difficult. Everything's difficult. And so perhaps in priorities, working with the county, it can be to try to sort through things. And what's most difficult most recently is that there's a fence permit that we're trying to process. And we asked for a copy of the site plan. And we were told to submit a Maryland Public Information Act request. And so I had a similar look. I'm looking at all of you kind of having, yeah. And it's just, you want to shake your head. And, but we pushed back and we were told submit a Public Information Act request. And so there's examples on all levels of government not working well together. And that's the most recent example with the town and the county. At the end of October, because we've shared with you about those 21 code chapters in code and 4 charter amendments, we're going to be bringing some of that stuff to you at the end of the month. We'll try to get that out a week or so early to give you some things to read. And then just a brief update on volunteers for boards, committees, and commissions. We expect, working with the mayor, for you all to consider recommendations for the LMUTC committee at a special session on the 27th. We do have a resident who's interested in serving as the youth member of the Board of Elections. So that's really positive. That's been vacant for some time. As well as anticipate bringing back to the council also on the 27th, folks that, or I'm sorry, I misread this, would bring that back to you on the 27th for appointment. And then on the Board of Code Appeals, we're still seeking some additional expressions of interest. So if there's someone in the community who's interested, we have information on the website, or you can contact Town Hall. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And on the Board of Code of Appeals, is the assumption that the alternate would be willing to serve as a full-time person, or are they only wanting to be an alternate?
Yes, so the alternate has to have some very specific background or education to be able to serve as the alternate, but that's what they would do. If someone who was unable to serve for that meeting, the alternate would step in.
But I get that.
Does that make sense?
No, but it does make sense. But in terms of but you wouldn't necessarily, I was thinking like the alternate's like first person on the bench. And then if we are missing a person full-time, that would the alternate want to just opt to become full-time or not an alternate, but actually on the.
Yeah, I think we're actually missing the alternate though.
Oh, okay.
It's the alternate that we're missing.
Okay.
So it's not that we have someone who's been an alternate who can then move in.
Thank you.
We actually are missing volunteers for 2 of those positions, the alternate and then the resident. So those are the two positions we're looking for.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Councilmember Lingua.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a question for the town manager. I was recently contacted by a resident. I understand there's a survey going on with a particular part of public property along the corner, like where Lafayette comes down to 47th and Nicholson. Do we know when that's going to occur?
I don't, I know it was supposed to have occurred already.
Okay.
And I can get you an update. I do know it's costing like $7,000, but we approved that.
Okay.
And, but I'll get with, Director Lewis tomorrow and, we'll make sure we email the council what the holdup is and when we expect it to be resolved.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other comments for the town manager from the council? Okay. Next up, we have council ward reports. We will start, as is our tradition, with our first council member of our first ward.
I like first council.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll similarly be brief. I want to thank staff and colleagues on the council for everything that went into the town center redesign vote that we took tonight. Thanks folks who supported it. Thanks folks who didn't support it, because I know that you've all been very engaged and provided feedback. And even if you know, the outcome of the vote wasn't preferred for you, the feedback that you've given over the process has been incorporated and will make the project better. So I want to thank everyone for that. Mr. Mayor, I also want to ask that how we support and protect our immigrant neighbors in town continues to be on unfinished business, not just the item about the undesignated social concerns or how we make contributions to nonprofit, but particularly how we support and protect our immigrant neighbors, because I'm extremely discouraged by the answers that I got tonight, or the answers that I didn't get. And my fear for our immigrant neighbors and our community have only grown since I've been in this room tonight. And that's disappointing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Foe.
I have nothing that can't wait for another meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Lingwood, Ward 3.
You know, in my time on this council, one thing I've learned that there's a certain time in the meeting that comes where just everything just melts down. And we're there. We're actually 15 seconds into it, so I'll have a report for the next time.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Worsnop, Ward 4.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Agreed with my colleagues. I'll save any comments I have for our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Ramos, Ward 5.
I feel like I'm forced to say the same thing as well because I'm tired. And no, seriously, my kids like been blowing up my head. But I do want to say that I'm very, very grateful to the police. Don't take my passion for immigrants to heart. It's just that's how I speak. And I thank you as well for your emails and that explanation. It's not what I wanted to hear, but I respect it for the transparency as well. I really don't have nothing to say about the community. The main focus has been, I don't know if you hear me, but the main focus has been really ICE and the essentials and how we're gonna pay our rent because we're not going to work because we're in fear. But as I gather information with CASA, as I speak to other organizations that I'm gonna get in touch with, because I spoke with Heather, you'll be speaking to them tomorrow. I hope that I can help a little bit more. And I do respect, I may say his name wrong, but council member for Ward 6, bringing up the information about the veterans. They need support as well. I'm on board with that. I feel like we have a lot of people in the community right now, especially with the inflation, with the gas prices, with the food prices, with taxes, with everything, where maybe there's something that we can do. One of the things that I did want to talk about is if we have food banks, and if we do, who's organizing them? Do they need possibly assistance to get funding? Maybe even free clinics, have them come here, or promote, pharmacies that are giving free shots, things of that nature, so that we can help the community as well. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Colon, Ward 6, a report.
Mr. Mayor and council members, our manager and staff, first of all, I'm going to congratulate you guys for helping me to approve my proposal for that speed hump and the street light. Although the street light is not yet completed, But I thanks all of you for approving my proposal. Now it's a little bit better. But the guys that they put the speed hump, they make it low. That's another problem they do. It's too low. Sometimes some people don't even step on their brake to cross. They just go like that. But anyhow, it's better. Then number two, we didn't differentiate between this immigrant, whether it's a legal immigrant or illegal immigrant. These people want to help. Because if you are a legal immigrant, yes, I can see to that. But illegal, without documents in this country, so I don't know how I can do that. Then, concerning the IC, you know, these are federal operations. I said it in the last meeting. There is no need to question these people. These are federal operations. Even the police officers, they're all our officers. But you guys cannot understand. But we understand. They are all our officers. You don't have to go and ask your colleagues, where is your ID? Where is your identity? No. These are federal operations. So the best thing, let's hope and pray that everything will be settled. But nobody can question a president, what he said. Right? So this is my take. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your report, council member. And with that, it is the end of the agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Foe, seconded by Councilmember Smith. It's not debated. We'll go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Worsnop,
Aye.
Councilmember Ramos,
Aye.
Councilmember Cologne.
Aye.
I also vote aye. The motion to adjourn the meeting is passed 7-0. The meeting is adjourned at 10:40. Thank you all.
Where the next meeting? Nobody talk.